Clink.
So, I don't think the audio played on the intro there. Karl, I think you were a little bit off on the timing, but anyway.
I couldn't see it live.
No, you
I'm
could
sorry.
not. Welcome to the Wiki Weekdays podcast. You know, professional as always, just things falling apart already. But I'm your host for this week's episode, Lucas Holland. I am joined, as always, by the lovely Karl Smallwood.
Hello. Welcome to another episode of the Wiki Weekdays podcast.
And Karl, today, for like episode 99, we have quite a bit of housekeeping, so I'm just going to blitz the first bit, and then we'll get into like the more fun bits in a moment. So
you need me to be quiet, right?
Yeah.
For the first time in my life ever, I've got to shut the fuck up and mean it. So continue.
So, of course, remember you can like and subscribe to just follow us, hit that notification bell, all that jazz. If you're listening on podcast services, you can leave us a nice review if you think we've earned it by the end of the episode. Of course, we've got memberships on the YouTube channel where you can get ad-free playlists and videos. We've got, super chats. If any super chats come in, then of course we will read them at some point. If not immediately, we will make sure that we get to reading all of the super chats, provided they're not like offensive or mean or anything, of course. And then there's a couple of things to mention for like next week's podcast. But first, I'll mention that we do a thing called Which Wiki Won This Week, where you decide and vote in our Discord below, or Discord that's linked below, sorry, that which wiki won this week that we brought last podcast. And I myself, I brought the discussion of something that I totally remember, which says a lot, really, doesn't it, Karl?
Well, if you don't remember it, why would our audience?
Exactly, yeah. Of course, yeah, I picked Dragon Ball Z Kai, and I did remember that discussion. I'm just, trying to remember everything all at once. But Karl's wiki did win, and kind of cheated, because Karl picked Emma Frost, and those thick thighs won in the day.
They do, yeah. They save lives and win me wiki weekends.
They do indeed. And then we also do a thing with Pet of the Week, which is called Pet of the Week, where our patrons can submit pets in our Discord, and anyone that's even, just on the Discord can vote for which pet won. And this week, the winner is Miley. And they are submitted with the little context of, this is Miley, the living teddy bear.
That does look like a very huggable and wuggable dog.
That really does, yeah.
It looks like he's melting. It looks like, do you know those teddy bears that are not quite got enough stuffing in them, so they just melt a little bit?
See, I was going to say it's like the opposite of, the stereotypical, old crusty dog with, the old owner that just doesn't bathe them enough. It's like, no, Miley's looking fresh.
Yeah, what's the opposite of crusty? Would it be smooth?
Smooth.
New and smooth.
Glamorous. Groomed.
Shiny. Shiny.
Yeah.
It's got that new and... It's like it's been using that Tame and Maine, hasn't it?
And this picture of Miley is, slightly dopey, but also really high quality and cute at the same time. So, it's a nice compromise. It's like, Miley still lets to just, look great. But at the same time, there's that little bit of goofy.
Yeah, it's like a candid shot of a celebrity that is not candid, right? It's like, they took 500 fucking of those things, right? It's like, ooh, look at Dua Lipa, just candidly, just looking fucking incredible. It's like, I know she's hot, but she's not that hot. No one looks that good walking to the shops.
The fact that Miley, this is one of 80 pictures of Miley that was taken in that moment, and this is the one that looked the best.
Yeah. It's like, have you ever, sometimes you just got, just go check out that thread of the most obvious stage celebrity photographs for paparazzi, and the best one is when Grimes broke up with Elon Musk. She was pictured on the street reading the Communist Manifesto. The worst one though is Bradley Cooper reading Lolita with his 19-year-old girlfriend in the park, and it's like, he's not reading the book, because if he was, he wouldn't he wouldn't be reading it in the park with his near underage girlfriend.
Or he's about to get a shock and realise he shouldn't have been reading that in public.
Yeah, he's probably maybe there's a shot after. I think it's the 30th page. You're like, oh,
oh, put it away. Oh dear, but Karl, we also have to talk about next week's podcast, because next week's podcast is a glorious special occasion, which is us hitting our first 100th episode. I say that as if like there's going to be a second 100th episode, which there kind of is because there'll be episode 200 hopefully, but
Yeah, there'll be episode 200.
which I guess is a second 100th episode, kind of. But yes,
It is.
um,
100, like it's a good like what's the word now? Right, milestone, right?
it is a good milestone. Yes,
To
of course.
reach just under 2 years of like weekly content.
Yeah, but I think like next month will be our 2nd-year anniversary for Wiki Weekends.
Hell yeah, it's doing. That's like for like the 2 year relationship, it's going pretty all right.
It is, yeah, yeah,
It's still successful.
going well. But yeah, I was badgering Karl about watching Daredevil, because Born Again, literally the last episode came out hours ago. I was like, Karl, you could just sneak in watching the episode and we could talk about Daredevil today. And I'm like, then I thought about it for a moment. It's like, a lot of people are probably going to be waiting for the last episode to come out before they even start watching it. So
Well, that's what you did, right?
I thought I'd done that. I was a week early, so I spaced out the 9 episodes over this last week, or half week.
I've not seen it yet. I'm going on holiday over the weekend, so my plan is like when I get back after that holiday, I'll probably just want to like zone out. So I'll order a pizza, watch Daredevil, and get cracking the next day.
Yeah, like you were just like, I'm not watching it today, Luke. I'm not doing that. Like, don't force me to watch this.
I finished my work for like this today 40 minutes ago.
Oh yes, but we do want to talk about Daredevil. So I figured that part of the podcast next week, instead of like bringing a wiki, it can just be a Daredevil discussion.
Maybe the wrap around, yes. But there's something it's wrapping around, right? Like Daredevil is like the bun. What's the meat?
Well, we still need to talk about Bun, Karl. Let me go.
Okay.
Because I don't know whether that's enough time to make it a spoiler discussion or not. So I guess either in the Discord or in the comments below, let us know for next week's podcast if you'd like us to talk spoilers or not about Daredevil Born Again. We'll kind of read the room. If it's like pretty 50-50 or staunchly against spoilers, then we'll avoid it. But if most people are like, yeah, let's fucking go, then we'll do a spoiler discussion, and I'll make sure there's like a little like, Daredevil spoiler picture on the screen to make sure when you click in that you know what you're getting.
Yeah.
But the meat of the bun, hopefully, Karl, will also be something related to something I mentioned last week, which is we have set up like a voice messaging thing. Or I surprised you with that idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought, as I say, not sure whether like at that point I was not sure whether we were going to use it or not. At the moment, we're sitting on like a dozen voicemails, most of which like I think we can put in. But just a few people wanted a bit more like clarification on necessarily just what you want like left as voicemails, and it's just generally like if you'd like to comment about the content, if you'd like to make us, play a silly game on the podcast or ask us a question that can lead to a fun discussion.
Yeah, or just if you've got something to say, like, hey, we've been doing this shit for 2 years now. Any feedback? Anything you'd like to see in future? Any hopes for the future?
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed. And as I say, most of that stuff has been like very usable. I'd like to mention just make sure you keep it to Wiki Weekdays content, because like there's been a couple of things just like asking about like other things that we do, and it's like I'd like to just keep it related to Wiki Weekends as like a celebration of Wiki Weekends, not necessarily all our other content outside of that.
Yeah, well, it's it's celebrate like it's the 100th episode of Wiki Weekends. And Wiki Weekends is its own distinct entity, which I think after 100 episodes, that's a pretty substantial amount of content under this banner. I'd like to celebrate the brand that we built up rather than talk about anything else necessarily.
Yeah, it's to celebrate Wiki Weekends. So if someone only watches Wiki Weekends, I don't want the 100th episode to start them being about other stuff that people might not be able to relate to.
Yes. There's a time and a place for that.
There is, of course.
I'll put the link in chat as well for everyone watching at home.
For anyone that does want to leave that, I've just posted that a couple of times in chat so people can see it there. And just as well, maybe people could just like, if they wanted to leave one or have already left one, just double check like the quality and maybe send a message again if it's not very like If the quality's not great, because there was a couple where it's like clearly on good microphones and stuff like that, and that's really appreciated. But a couple of the questions were like, "Hi, love the content. I'd really like to ask you, and it's like, okay, so there was like two different ones where just as the question started getting like to the question, it starts like kind of cutting out a bit, and I couldn't really understand what was being said.
It's like just a pro tip: just don't sit next to your microwave crying baby or low thumping hip hop.
And it was more just like, like interference in terms of like maybe they're doing it over the phone and like the internet quality's not great or something. But just yeah, there was a couple where I'd like to use them. I'd like to know what you're asking, but it wasn't very like legible. Is that the right term for audio? I don't know.
I'm going to assume that these like comments are anonymous, right?
Yeah, so I'm like not going to read out anybody's name who submitted them. Like, I think it requires a name to be input, but I'm not going to be like, hey, if you want to mention your name, like, go ahead in the message. But yeah, just for the sake of like not having to ask every individual person's permission, I just won't be saying people's names. I won't be trying to like
just
dox
thought I'd
people.
clarify that for anyone who wants to message in but doesn't like feel comfortable like leaving a name or like any identifiable information. Like, we'll only be using the audio that you provide. So anything that is not like, as you said, like the email address or what have you, that's attached to the thing will not be getting mentioned and only sit on our side. And like, fuck, I'm gonna remember what that is.
Yeah, and of course, as well, just to mention, if you want to leave more than one voice message, go ahead. I might not pick everyone to use, but like, if you want to leave a couple and see if I pick one, absolutely fine. Like,
also, don't take the piss.
Yeah, don't leave 50, but if you want to leave 2 or 3, go ahead. And as I mentioned, if anyone's
crazy ex-girlfriend tech, 100 voice messages.
If anyone's like planning on sending hate speech through or anything, I'm gonna get like I've had a volunteer that's gonna check everything is like, nice and above board before letting me know like if there's any that I shouldn't listen to kind of thing or delete immediately kind of.
Yeah,
So and then I'll be doing a pass to make sure that it's good for content.
The idea there being like, if someone thinks, aha, I'm going now, Lucas has to listen to me call him a twat. No, he doesn't.
I mean, you can like pay me and then I'll take it if you want to do like a reverse cameo situation.
It's the Jason Manford thing, right? Where he says like, if I was a footballer getting paid 100 grand a week, I'd stay an extra 90 minutes and just let everyone in the audience who's like booing me, let them say the comments. Like, just, you're a twat. Okay. Your mum's a twat as well. Like, okay, but you should see the house she lives in.
But Karl, speaking of paying us, we of course have to shout out the lovely folks on our highest tier, or like Patreon producers, so to speak. No, that's what would be the names that are above us. That's like the Patreon producers. This is the shout out people, the shout out tiers.
These are the executive producers.
The executive producers have paid extra money, yes. But of course, our first shout out is going to, and this is just in alphabetical order. The first person to shout out is Bee of Awesome with 3 little bee emojis.
Yes, followed by Dan Dilly.
And then Fallopian Starship.
And closely followed by Judge Dredd.
Picked the wrong way around to do. Followed by Kicking Bucket knows and laments that the character limit for a Patreon display name is only 128 character.
I respect that. Like, you know what? Lucas has it feel. Next one, Lam de Llama. Much appreciated.
It is, yes, of course, and also appreciated from Little Ghost.
Followed closely by Lucille de Steele.
And then Tam McKee.
And I guess I get to read out a long-ass name now. So, Woo Won King, Day Willy Wonka, Fondue, way to make the name de longer.
And thank you all to those folks there. And thank you, for trying to make it hard for us.
As I said on one of the episodes previously, like, turn your name into a tongue twister. I'm such a fan of tongue twisters.
But anyway,
Lucas isn't.
I'm not. But, Anyway, we've got to move on to the podcast itself now, Karl. And you have brought a wiki for us that I'm just very confused about the concept for.
Okay, so we're going to pull back the curtain a little bit here. Like, some content we record is recorded ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
The particular conversation that inspired my wiki entry this week, we recorded it early this week, right? So it'll probably be going out in the video or the video that features the conversation will probably going out like next week, this weekend,
I
right?
think it's going to be in like a week and a half, like the weekend after this one.
Yeah, and during that video, the topic of which we'll leave as a surprise, so just check that out in a couple, a week and a half, is the Chicago rat hole. Because I mentioned just offhand of like, oh yeah, it's like the Chicago rat hole, and Luke went, "Squeeze me."
Yeah, hang on. What do you mean
Chicago
a rat hole?
So you're not familiar with the Chicago rat hole? You know nothing about it, like. Well, first of all, I want to say like the rat, R-A-T, is one of my favorite words because it's just I don't know why it's so funny, but it really is. Like, there's a couple of phrases that always absolutely like send my side into orbit. Like, Lucas, what do you know what I'm going to say, right? What is the worst? No, there's rat ass when you're getting drunk. Let's say,
get your rat out.
Yeah, let's say you get a little bit you're a little bit drunk. You're you're in your 20s and you're an asshole. Hopefully, no one older than 20 is like doing this. But you see, like an attractive young lady walking past. Maybe goes to your university. Maybe they're on like a hen do.
I'm gonna say, please. We're not encouraging anyone of any age to be doing this.
No, but Lucas, if you could put yourself into the shoes and the beer stained T-shirt of such a gentleman in the 2010s, what might that gentleman shout to the lady walking past?
I'm not going to clarify that anyone that could be called gentleman would say this, Karl. And yeah, assholes would maybe potentially be drunk and harass people on the street by telling them to get their rat out.
And what is a rat in that context?
Your genital area.
Yeah. And just there's something about the phrase "get your rat out."
It's so not nice.
Funny. Get your rat out for the lads is such an awful thing, right? And just to clarify, we do have Dragon Rider in chat about my patron name was not featured. That if you join this month, it'll be in next month's.
Yeah, there is like a little clarifying thing of just the start of each month is like when we sit down and make sure we like get the new assets made and get the jazz done through. So just we make sure that every single person always has like a full month, regardless of whether they've just joined or just cancelled or whatever. Just the next month from when you started, then you get like a full month, regardless of whether you instantly leave after that.
Yeah, and also like just give us a little bit of leeway because sometimes like 5-week months, so it doesn't always necessarily work out to exactly a month, but we do try our best. But bring it back to the rat of hole in Chicago. The other use of the word rat that I find hilarious is when I was out for a drink a couple months ago now. Do you know, like, there's like real ales, and I don't really care what beer I'm drinking. I just point at one that looks the funniest. One evening I was out, I just saw just a pint, and it's called Rat. I just looked at my mate and went, "Are we on the Rat tonight?" And for some reason, it really cracked me up. And I went to that pub like a couple of weeks later, and I wasn't with the same person, but I lost my shit and went, "Give me a pint of Rat." And the person's like, "Okay, don't get all right."
I was getting hyped for the Rat, but
that's getting hyped for the Rat.
What rat hole is this though? Like, I'm still confused about the idea of a rat hole.
So the beauty of Wiki Weekends and Wiki Weekdays, the podcast listening to right now, is that if, like Lucas, you've got no idea what I'm talking about, the format of a wiki will allow us all to get on the same page. Specifically, this Wikipedia page. So the Chicago rat hole was, pour one out for our rat, hole shaped like a rat in the sidewalk of West Roscoe Street in the Roscoe Village neighborhood of Chicago, Illinois. After existing for decades, it became a viral phenomenon on social media, mainly Twitter. And can I just say, shout outs to Wikipedia for just dead naming Twitter. Like, see, this thing is, if you go over to like the blue link for Twitter, it says Twitter, officially known as X. They don't care.
I thought it was like, oh, well, maybe they haven't like gone into the back end of Wikipedia and control left on every single article. But no, like, even the blue link is still like, fuck it, it's Twitter.
It's Twitter, officially known as X.
Yeah.
And speaking of like just things that make you giggle, I was out for a drink with a friend of mine a few days ago, and so I was just taking like a sip of my beer, and they nearly like made me fall off my chair because like Elon Musk came up because he was on like the news or something in the background. My friend just went, "Oh man, I wish I was one of Elon Musk's kids." Like, what? Because then I never fucking hear from him. I just won't have to hear from him anymore, right? It's like, that's good. That's damn good.
Oh dear God.
Anyway, this tweet went viral in January of 2024, attracting tourists to the site. City officials removed the sidewalk slab containing the hole from the street in April of that year, but the hole remains intact.
So,
An apparent okay. Any
like,
thoughts so
why
far?
is
Chicago rat hole?
so why is it a rat hole then?
Oh, we'll find out, Lucas. So, an apparent example of accidental life casting. So, the origins are debated, and we'll get to that in a moment. The hole was described by the New York Times as, and I quote, Chicago Stonehenge, because its origins are unknown.
Like, so I'm still so confused about what this is.
It's just, Lucas, it is just a hole in the road shaped like a rat, where it is presumed a rat or a squirrel, no one's quite sure, fell into like the stuff they were using to pave the roads. I presume tarmac. I was going to say concrete, but roads aren't made of concrete. But whatever it is they do when they're laying roads, like this animal fell into it and left an indent, and just apparently it's been there for decades, and it's became this like just quirky local landmark. And in that vein, before we move on to like the history of the Chicago rat hole, I did ask you to have a think before the podcast started. And folks at home, same question. Are there any like local landmarks like this in your hometown or a place that you grew up? So I can think of one, two actually, from the two places that I grew up. So the place I was born, Scunthorpe, there is a place, and it's actually so famous it appeared in the show Skint. And there's a place in Scunthorpe called The Wall, and it is a 1 foot high, 15-foot long wall where people sit on it while they're waiting for their dole money, and they do drugs.
Oh, excellent.
And that's all they do. And if you are like an absolute no-oper, and like, you know, you've got no job, no prospects, you just sit on the wall and do drugs and periodically go into the off license that's nearby to get one can of beer.
I remember my dad not long ago telling me a story of like watching somebody, and he was like remotely working for a day in like a different site, and it was like across from a job center, and there was like a guy on the pavement passed out with like a beer in his hand. Just
Legend.
Apparently, like, you know, I've got to go job center in the morning, I'll just have a nap in front of it for the night, and then appears to like wake up, inspect the beer, and he's like, 1 minute he had the beer in his hand and like seeming was like struggling to get it open, and he's like, and the next time I walk past, he's got half of the can like torn open and it had frozen overnight, and he's licking the beer like an ice lolly.
It's like you do, like, I feel bad.
I do feel
When
bad.
you, like,
I do. Don't
you
get me
feel
wrong,
bad for
because
people
like,
in like situations that harsh, but
but
also at the same time, it's like you're not helping yourself when you do that, right?
it's still funny the concept of like just being like, oh fuck, my beer's frozen. Like, fuck it, let's find a way to crack this open and make it an ice lolly.
Yeah. Then in regards to the wall in Scunthorpe, I used to live nearby, and I had to go past it to get like milk and stuff from the shop.
Mm-hmm.
And Joey mentioned earlier, like, you know, a fine young gentleman who'd be like, "Hey, get your rat out." That would be the lads on the wall. Like anytime a girl went past, doesn't even matter if you're in a fucking school uniform, the weird 30-year-old drug addicts will be shouting shit at them.
Yeah,
And
like,
as I mentioned, it is featured on the show
calling.
Skint. Yeah, it is featured on the show Skint, which is set in Scunthorpe and primarily follows people who are on like job seekers allowance, the dole, as it's more colloquially known. And just they have like interviews of people on the, and I'm just like, not only do I know some of these people, you can see my fucking house in the background. But is there anything for you, Lucas? Anything? Have you got anything that can top the wall? Because that's the thing. It's like if you're in Scunthorpe and you're in that specific part of Scunthorpe, you know what the wall is. But if you go there, it's so underwhelming. It's like, have you ever heard? Is it like the Butte plastic tunnel? And it's like, do you know one of those like tunnels that they have in car parks so you can walk to the like supermarket without getting wet? There's one of them in
Right,
like a
yeah.
small British town. If it's the town of Bute or Butt, I don't know how you pronounce it because I've never been there. But it became like a running gag to give it like 5 stars on TripAdvisor. Like every now and again, it'll get like a 1-star review from some tourist who's driving through the UK and makes a point of going there to see it. It's a 5-star rated attraction, and like every review is like life changing, absolutely the best thing I've ever done. I'll find a link to that, and I'll put a link to it in chat for anyone who's curious, and I'll make a note of it ourselves so we can like put these in the description below alongside
But
like the other stuff. But
before I get to my example, I do love when it's shit like that where just a community comes together and decides like this is our shit.
yes,
It's like it's shit, but this is our shit. And one thing that I've started loving, because I'm
Bude. That's it. Sorry, the Bude Tunnel.
viewed. Okay.
The Bude Tunnel, and it has got 4.7 out of 5 on TripAdvisor with 1,500 reviews. It is noted as the number 4 thing to do in the town of Bude. And it's just a tunnel that goes into a Sainsbury's. And they say duration suggested. Duration 1 hour, suggested 4 hours to truly take it.
But yeah, I've been on and off like a visitor of the subreddit for the game Balatro, for like a
Oh,
roguelike
okay.
deck builder. And a lot of the time people will post screenshots where it'll be like, oh, here's like this ridiculous run that I got like of cards early on and stuff, like
Okay.
here's the seed for it, blah blah blah. Or like, oh, I've got this selection of cards in the shop, like, should I get rid of my thing for this? And the entire subreddit, like, without really talking too much about it, has made the screenshots progressively get more and more cursed over time.
Yeah, is that where like the 161 of clubs comes from? Where it's like someone plays like the 161 of clubs.
Yeah,
Oh,
it
I love
is.
that where it's like just this it's an unspoken agreement from everyone there that no, this is funny and we can never explain it. And anyone who asks, just pretend you don't know what we're talking about. Like I said, the Bude Tunnel.
Yeah,
If you ask someone in Bude, like, well, what do you say about the tunnel? It's the best place to go. I go there every weekend with my kids.
because like, bear in mind, most people are playing this on like probably like a Switch or Steam, where there's a screenshot button in place, and like same with your PlayStation, Xbox. So, like, you can literally share your like, in-game screenshot and get that onto Reddit pretty easily. But most of them are like blurry ass pictures taken from 10 foot away on like an awkward angle with the phone, and like
Because that's the
smudge the
joke, right?
camera and put a filter on it.
Well, speaking of which, I was like just going through like pictures of the Bude Tunnel. I put one into our like Discord if you like posting the on our stream if you would like to, if you can do so for the folks at home if they're curious. But while I was scrolling through the other photos, someone just loaded a picture of their dog having sex with another dog, and there was a photo of someone proposing in it.
As if it's. Why has it got a giant fluorescent sign?
Because it's this number
It's the
4
Bude
landmark.
Tunnel.
Well, the amount of photos of people like just T-posing in it going down the thing.
I'll
Because
get it
it's just
up
become
now
this like just
for all
running
the
gag among the people of the town that okay, yeah, this is just a thing. You can never admit that it's a joke.
and the picture that Karl sent is like the decorations it's got while the Christmas lights are on in town.
Yeah, the famous Bude Tunnel is world famous.
So this is the Bude
It's one of
Tunnel
the
at
singular.
Christmas time, everyone.
Yeah, so like you mentioned like the Balatro thing, I'm a huge fan of that. It's like I think it's on Reddit again. If you go to like our marijuana, it's all pictures of trees. But if you go to our trees, it's about marijuana. Because apparently like there was just this thing of like people would get high and go onto like our trees and just post pictures of cool trees. So they just swapped.
So yeah, it gets to that point where, as you say, like the communities decide like on like this weird unspoken term that just no, this is hilarious. Let's lean in.
It's funny, and the more confusing it is, the funnier it gets.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like the Chicago rat hole, where like you tell people about it and they go, and it's like it's a rat fell into some fucking wet tarmac 50 years ago. Gives a shit, and you see people like worshipping it and putting coins in it. And the less people get, the funnier it gets. So in that vein, any others you can think of, Lucas?
Well, just one thing like local to myself is
Okay.
I'm like doxing my childhood home essentially here, but like neither me or any of my family live there anymore anyway, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, where I grew up, just we had like some woods behind the house, right? Like
Mhm.
little wooded area, just bunch of like tall trees and shit, and like a big hill that like was two parts, so it was like really good for sledding on,
Yeah.
and like people would always go there, and it'd just be one of those things where like you'd go there after school, and for some reason there'd be like 10, 20, 30, 40 kids hanging around in this little woods to just dick about on a hill, and
Yeah.
like there'd be the classic. There was a rope swing there that then got upgraded to a rope swing with a stick on. That then someone tried to attach a tire to and make a tire swing, but then
And the
the
branch snapped.
string wasn't like heavy duty string enough to cope with an entire tire swing. So then the tree was like broken. Then for the longest time, like people couldn't figure out like the right tree that would get you like jumping off onto the hill and stuff like that. But yeah, it was this weirdly like just popular spot for kids to go hang out, and obviously also probably drink and do drugs and stuff, right? Because you're just in the
Yeah.
woods. The police would never really go there.
Yeah. It's like Scunthorpe again. I'm not sure how popular it was, but at least in at high school and college, the place where I would go to drink cider in the woods, the place that you'd meet was called DP.
Mhm.
And one time I asked, like, what does that actually mean? And so he goes, oh, it's Dave's poo. So what? And apparently, like, some dude called Dave took a shit here ages ago, and it was such a rank shit. People could find it weeks later, and that's what this item mean. So some dude took such a massive rank shit here, people can still like find the location years later.
Yeah, fair. And like, the one thing that's I guess quite personal to me is that in front of this woods there was just like a little grass area just before there was like a big like metal arm to stop cars driving in the pathway.
Mhm.
And we had a car crash there, and for a good like maybe 10 years or so was just two massive like tire tracks from our car of where it had like skid and just like shoved all the mud to the side as we like nearly fucking died in a car crash. So I'd
Yeah.
walk home every day and just get reminded of like, hey, this is where like you all crashed in your car and all got like injured a little bit.
Well, it's the kind of thing when you live in a small town, right? And a bit close to home for me now. Something you might be familiar with, Lucas, is there's a nightclub called Corporation. If you go to Sheffield or you've been to Sheffield, you know it is like the dirtiest, dingiest nightclub in the city. Every city has its dirty, dingy nightclub. This is the one in Sheffield. But specifically, there was just a running gag that everybody who went there knew about, which was the stairs are lethal.
Oh yeah.
The like in Corp stairs is just a meme to the point where there was like just some guy, some legend on Tinder who just set his profile picture and name to Corp stairs and would be on Tinder and would match with people. And all it said was like, "I'm soaking wet. Would you like to go down on me?"
A bit maybe a bit less crude, a bit different was just I remember for the longest time in like the crazy house in Liverpool, which rip in peace, no longer exists.
Mhm.
But that was like the rock and metal club that was very popular in Liverpool, and you've been there quite a few times, I think, with me, and just like there's just
Oh
a
yeah.
big, or there was a big, massive just gorilla, and everyone like would go up the stairs, and there's just this big gorilla for no reason. Wasn't
Oh
anything
yeah.
to do with any theme. It was just the big gorilla that everyone posed and took pictures with when they were drunk.
Just one of those like random things like that. Sometimes clubs do.
Yeah, and presumably so. Hey, a lot of people will take pictures with the gorilla and post it online, and like at least then you
Social
get
media, right?
post like natural pictures of people being like, "Hey, I'm in the crazy house with the big gorilla. Look at this."
Yeah. The nightclub one in Scunthorpe that I remember, and it was real bad. Is like there was a nightclub that had a glass floor.
Oh,
It was called Beaver Alley.
don't like that.
Nope.
So
Because that was like back. It
if
was like from like the
anyone's
'70s or something.
If anyone's
And
not
obviously they
putting
never
two and
changed
two
it.
together, essentially mirrored flooring in a nightclub.
No, that was on the top floor. So from the ground floor, you could just see up to the dance
Oh,
floor.
that's even worse.
Yeah.
I
And
thought you
obviously
just
they
meant
never
like it
changed
was
it.
kind of like glass based and it was on
No.
just a dark floor. No, just you could see up. Oh, great.
But they never cleaned it. So even though it was the 70s, it was presumably clear. In like the 2000s, it might as well have been just matte black.
Right.
But the name stayed there. And presumably they could never clean it because then they would just be like inundated with sexual harassment lawsuits left, right, and center.
Yeah, like it's not the 70s anymore.
That nightclub is no longer open. But I just remember that and like remember asking like, why is it called that? And being told it's because it's got a glass floor. Yeah, so let's go back to the Chicago rat hole. Speaking of getting your rat out. So the hole gained worldwide attention on January 6th, 2024. Man, that must have been a big year. Can't think of anything else that's happened on January 6th, so it's definitely the rat hole. Via a tweet by Chicago-based comedian and writer Winslow Dumaine. That is a name. Winslow Dumaine. The post quickly went viral, compelling many Chicago residents to visit the hole in what has been described as a quote-unquote pilgrimage and make offerings to it, such as coins, flowers, candles, cheese, cigarettes, alcohol, children's toys, foodstuff, and estrogen pills. So it became like this trans rights icon. So people were going to the rat hole and just leaving estrogen pills.
Okay.
So you know what? Chicago rat hole says trans rights. Let's fucking go.
Unlike the fucking world right now.
Yeah.
Oh,
And isn't that great as well? Like, just this is this earnest display of just togetherness, where it became just this impromptu celebration and wholesomeness. Like, there's a couple of examples of that from the internet. Like, there's this dude who just went on to GoFundMe when he was like drunk or high, and he's like, "Can I get like $15? I want to make potato salad." And it went viral because people thought it was really funny, and he ended up raising like 50 grand. So he just went, okay, so he threw like potato salad fest and donated all the proceeds to a charity.
Okay, good, yeah. I'm glad that they didn't just go, thanks, I made my potato salad, I'm fucking off with 50
Well, the other one was
grand.
like that guy who, again, went viral. Because I thought this would be interesting because things probably aren't going to go viral in the future because the website that was for many years, the internet's town square, Twitter, no fucker goes there anymore except for racists. And racists are incapable of working together. So you're never going to get like this collective moment of just the internet being like, yes, let's do that. Unless it happens to get like grassroots movements on maybe Instagram, maybe Reddit. But even Reddit's like difficult with how disparate it is.
Yeah, remember that I've now got a Blue Sky account. Go follow me there instead of my Twitter.
There you go.
Karl's given up on social media, but yeah. It's
you probably won't get something like this, right?
It's one of those, right?
Where would it,
now
where would it start?
there might eventually be another one like Twitter was. Obviously, like over the years, we saw like I don't know how popular it actually was, or whether it was just like a very specific moment in time. But it kind of, for me at least, started with Bebo, and kind of that era where it was like you'd be on like Bebo and MSN Messenger, and then that kind of migrated over to MySpace, which migrated over to Facebook, which a lot of people then migrated over to Twitter or did both. But currently we don't really have like a front runner, and Instagram's not really Instagram's the one with threads, right?
Yes, but Instagram is so insular. Like you only see whereas Twitter, things that could go viral on Twitter in a very almost entirely unique way. Like I said, you wouldn't have had the Chicago rat hole going viral on Instagram. And if you did have it going viral on Instagram, because it's a picture-based social media site first and foremost, it's really difficult to get information out there. Whereas Twitter being primarily text-based, and text being one of the most efficient ways to get across information, I can't imagine anything like this is ever going to happen again.
Like, I do still see like a lot of things go viral on TikTok, but I think like TikTok is maybe
or like trends, right? Like dancers. You get dances and trends.
The trends
like that,
normally come from a viral video and then multiple people trying to recreate said viral moment.
Well, I guess you could. Like TikTok's probably like the closest we'd get, right? But
TikTok, I think feels like way more generational than Twitter felt.
It does, just a tad, yeah. But in that vein, is there any other examples of this you think of? Like, so I was going to mention, like, remember like the Josh fight. That dude who just like messaged like everyone on Facebook he knew called Josh and invited them all to a fist fight in a car park. and that went viral, and ultimately like 5,000 guys named Josh got wiffle bats and hit each other in a field, and like some little kid won.
Well, there's one where they
The
made
Area
a
51
movie
thing,
out
of
of
course.
it. What?
Can't forget the raiding Area 51.
Raiding
That was a
Area 51,
Facebook.
true.
That was just some guy made a event on Facebook and invited everyone to it. Like, let's all go to Area 51. They can't stop us all.
Which they totally could if they technically wanted to, but that would be a different story. But yeah, like, there was another Facebook one where they made a movie out of it where just some kid was like, hey, I'm throwing a house party, anyone's invited, and left it public.
Yeah. That dipshit went. He was on the news as well. It's like you can tell that kid's not got a future. He'd been sat on the wall in Scunthorpe if he had rich parents.
So yeah, it was just somebody that put up a public event of like house party, made it public, thinking like a few people in the local area would pick it up and come along, but just it was like hundreds of thousands of people, I think.
There's hundreds of people, yeah, but I think it did get it movie. I think this is called like X, the movie. I think
Essentially,
it's wild, right? That's examples like this. They're going to get fewer and far between as the internet gets more hostile to like genuine expressions of earnestness and honesty and kindness.
What happens if you just try and Google movie X? Like, that's called be good SEO wise nowadays.
I remember it was like just the poster is a guy passed out on the lawn in an X shape.
Okay, it's not that seemingly because that's an American horror film from 2022.
Okay.
Starring General Ortega, but
Project X.
Project X. Okay, yeah.
There it is. So I remember the poster being a guy who's passed out on the lawn. It's X, so I just thought the letter X.
Is that it? Yeah, someone just passed out face down, like arms and legs splayed out.
Yeah, I know my movies, baby. So that's based on a real story. It's like a bit exaggerated, but yeah, it's just some guys post on Facebook like fucking party at my place, everyone's invited.
And literally like thousands of people took the invitation.
It might be the only time in history where like the thing in high school movies has actually happened, like the wild party that everyone goes to. Because that never happens, right? Like the closest you'd get when I was in high school, I know like Americans always talk about like, I don't think any of those American movies accurately portray what parties look like, but
we don't know what American parties look like, right?
We don't, but most of mine were just like, 10, 20 people in the one friend's house who didn't mind drinking, except for the one time. Actually, not the one time, but I had a friend of mine who was in a band, and he had his mates come over. Do you like the music video for "Sorry You're Not a Winner"? Where it's Enter Shikari, where it's just like the band are in like someone's front room with like 50 fucking people, and it's like a mosh pit in the front room.
Right.
Yeah, my friend would have that going on every other weekend. That was pretty sick.
Yeah, I had a couple of friends that held like a New Year's party every year, and just there must have been like 50 plus of us that came around every single year and like all threw a New Year's party at theirs because the parents would always be like on holiday away.
So how glad are you as well? That's before like the widespread adoption of camera phones. How glad are you that there will never be photos of that out there?
There's lots of photos of them parties on Facebook because it was when we were like 18 plus.
There was no photos of my wild youth, so I'll be all right. I can go run for senator. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. But we continue now. The Chicago Rat Hole. One group of visitors took shots of Chicago's specialty. I'm hoping I pronounce this correctly because it's got an umlaut, and I'm not sure how umlaut changes the pronunciation, but malort beside the hole, leaving the bottle as an obulation. The Riot Fest, which is a punk festival, it says here on the blue link, Historical Society also dedicated a plaque at the site of the hole. Despite its newfound attention in 2024, the hole had existed for at least 20 to 30 years. According to locals, a local softball team had even been using the rat as an unofficial mascot since 2018. Yeah! Rat hole! You've got to do it, right? You've got to have the rat.
I do like the idea of making it like some form of mascot.
It's just what it's because the shittier mascot is, the better your team. I hate when like every high schools, right? They're like, oh, what are you, the Wildcats or the Wolves? It's like, nah, man, be something shit.
I do like it in movies where it's like, oh, the college stole the other college's mascot, and it's like a pig. But it's just
Yeah.
why do you just have a pig as your mascot? It's like, well, we couldn't afford the
Why
mascot
not?
costume.
The one that cracks me up is so I occasionally go to like ice hockey games in Sheffield. Like we don't have a great team, but it's like basically beer leagues to Americans and Canadians. But we've got the Sheffield Steelers. Do you know what the Sheffield Steelers mascot is?
A crowbar.
You think it was something like that? No, it's just a guy with a big mustache called Steeler Dan. And that's it. And he's just this dude with giant shoes and a mustache called Steeler Dan.
Oh, no, that doesn't exist. Steely Dan, don't come after Sheffield.
Yeah. Well, it's too small to get sued, but presumably they wouldn't want to do that. But back to the rat hole now. On January 10th, 2024, Ann Williams, the state representative for Illinois' 11th district, posted an online video promoting the hole, calling it, and I quote, the jewel of the 11th district. Again, it's just really wholesome, right? That everyone just decided, no, it's funny. It's just really funny if we all pretend this is a big deal.
See, the one thing that kind of was popular, but it was more of like, I believe it was some kind of art project or something in Liverpool that I just naturally was like, you're not making this cool. Like, you can't tell me that this is a cool viral thing. And it was the like super lamb bananas that they put out in Liverpool. And there was
They're like the really bright coloured ones for the advertising the Tate or something, right?
I don't know whether it started out as an advertisement for the Tate or not, but it was definitely an art project of some kind.
Okay.
That was like a commissioned art project where a bunch of these different like lamb bananas were put like around Merseyside as like promotion for like just tourism in Liverpool stuff.
Yeah, because speaking of like tourism and cool artwork, something I remember happening in Leeds is in Leeds. Yeah,
People can
like
understand
find the
what I mean
picture. 'Cause
by
I've got
lamb
another one. Like it's a similar thing where for the release of Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance,
Oh shit!
for some reason in Leeds they painted a like 3-story Yoji Shinkawa print of Raiden from that game on the side of a building. And it looks sick as fuck. But what was really cool is that it stood there for 10
I was
years.
gonna say it was about 10 years, wasn't it?
It was there for about a decade because just no one else paid for the advertising space. And it got to the point where people were like, is that a Banksy? Did Banksy just go really fucking metal all of a sudden? Because after a while, like the text faded, so you just had this really sick artwork of Raiden on the side of a building right next to the train station.
Which I am
And
grabbing
it
a
eventually
picture
just
of.
became,
People.
yeah, it eventually just became this really cool thing where people would go to it. It
Mhm.
was a poker stop for a little bit,
I
and
think
then
it was, yeah.
it got painted over and turned into a H&M advert. And everyone was really upset. It's like, okay, they're both adverts, but one advert is for shit clothes. The other one was for a sick game, and the advertisement consisted of absolutely rad as all fuck artwork by
Which
a
is
legendary illustrator.
It's now on screen for people to see, and it's rad
cool
as
as fuck,
fuck.
right? Because it was like 3 stories tall, and it was the first thing you saw when you came out of the train station.
Literally, it was. It was you come out of the train station. I didn't know it existed until I went to visit someone in Leeds and was like, "What the fuck is Ryan doing there?"
It's awesome, right? And it just became a tourist trap / like just local landmark through just people willed it into existence.
And yeah, I say it was there for like near enough 10 years and just absolute shambles that they ever painted over it.
It's just a cool piece of artwork. It's like Banksy's.
Yeah,
I mentioned like Banksy. I think there's a couple. There might be a Banksy in Sheffield, but there's also it might be someone copying. But there's also this other local Sheffield artist who's done like a bunch of work. Like I'll have to track down their name because it's going on. Because I went to their exhibit in
were they called Muse?
They're not, but it's going to find their name. Oh yeah, it is. They're just Phlegm.
Phlegm.
I think that's how they pronounce it. It's Phelgm. So I'll pronounce that Phlegm. But they are a Welsh-born, Sheffield-based muralist, and you'd recognise their work instantly because it's all over Sheffield.
Phlegm. See if I can get up any examples.
And they've done like a bunch of like really massive murals on the sides of buildings in
Oh,
Sheffield.
yeah, I recognise. Yeah.
But before they became famous and well known and celebrated, they would paint over those. But after they became famous, like they got grandfathered in of like, well, it's awesome. It's local history now. Leave it up. And I was hoping that would happen with like that Ryden painting. Of just
Yeah.
it gets to the point of like, well, it looks cool as fuck. Keep it up.
Let's get
All I ask now.
the phlegm artwork up.
It's cool, right? Like
Yeah,
it's not
this is
my
like
style, but I'd rather look at that than a plain brick wall.
this is one that comes up when I Google graffiti work, and it's just like this cool ass dragon on the side of a pub.
Yeah, like one of my favourite pubs, the Rutland Arms. Just on the way to that pub, there's just a wall that has like 20, 30 feet of murals painted by that guy.
Hmm.
And I would recommend that pub as well, because it's like, well, actually, I don't want to recommend that pub, because that's the pub I go to.
But don't
go to
say
the pub
that. That's
I go
even worse. Carl's doxing
Yeah.
himself all over the shop.
I'm not even doxing myself. I'm just, I want to gatekeep it. It's too good to gatekeep. Because I don't
So
want to
you're
make
ever
like
in
it awkward to
Sheffield
go-
and you want to find Karl.
No, it's my favourite pub. I don't want to not be able to go to my favourite
And if
pub.
you can't find him there, his address is.
No, don't fucking say that. So we continue now with the Chicago Rat Hole. On January 11th, so the next day, the day after it was crowned the Jewel of the 11th District, the Lakeview Roscoe Villagers Chamber of Commerce started receiving suggestions for names for the rat hole. They began accepting submissions until January 18th, 2024. So they had a week where you could submit suggestions. On January 19th, submissions had been narrowed down to 5 finalists, which residents had until the following week to vote on. Those 5 suggestions were Lil Stucky, Splattertooey, Splat, the Roscoe Rodent. So that's actually a fucking fantastic pun. The road dent that's like multi-layered. That's actually incredible.
I do like
Dib.
Splattertooey though.
Well, that was the winner. So Splattertooey was the winner.
And what was the last one that you mentioned there?
Dibs.
Well, I still will give us like that little modicum of British pride that Boaty McBoatface is still a better name.
Well, that's as well. That's another like wiki entry I thought about doing, because it's on the list of Boaty McBoatface, because that is just a really funny story. And similarly, it started a worldwide trend where I think for like 3 months after. So do you want to just tell people the story of that one if they maybe don't know?
There was like a new like royal liner, right? And
A research vessel.
Oh, research vessel, right? Okay, yeah, I remembered it was.
I think it was a research vessel.
It was some kind of important new like boat in Britain, was made, and they decided as like a sign of goodwill to the public to let the public go to, a certain place wherever it was, like, and just suggest names, and then like the certain names would get voted on, and most popular would end up becoming the new name of the boat.
Yes. So the actual boat is called the RSS Sir David Attenborough, because they fucking cave like bitch cowards.
Yeah, they were super cowardly about it and didn't commit to Boaty McBoatface in the end.
Yes, because it's called like the HMS David Attenborough or the RRS David Attenborough. I got my words muddled there. Because it's a research vessel. Hey, he's a famous British naturalist, and they did claim that got the most votes. Like fuck, it did. I want to see the receipts, because the other, supposedly the second highest voted thing, was just simply Boaty McBoatface. And they did name one of its little submarines Boaty McBoatface, but I'm not happy about that. And apparently, Boaty McBoatface, because people just found it funny, they said like, yeah, every fucking like animal naming things, like Joe and zoos like to go to get encouraged participation. Well, we've got like a baby otter. What should we call the baby otter? Like, you better believe it was Otter McOtterface. It's like when the Cincinnati Zoo said, we've got a baby gorilla, what should we call it? And it's like, you fucking kid, what do you think the votes are going to be? Just every single vote is Harambe Jr.
And I can't remember what character it was, but there was a Smash Bros. Like fighter ballot or whatever. I'm trying to find it now. Okay, yeah. So the results here for the Smash Bros. Fighter ballot, which was to go into Super Smash Bros. For Wii U and 3DS.
Yes.
It was like, hey, the most voted for character was actually definitely Bayonetta. And don't question it. And that's the character that got put in the game. And
It definitely wasn't like Waluigi or
well,
Genos, right?
ended up being later revealed that actually Bayonetta came second and Sora was the winner. When they announced Sora for Smash Bros. Ultimate, that managed to happen. But yeah, they were just like, they just bitched out and were like, well, we're not going to be able to get Sora. Bayonetta came second, just say that she won.
Yeah, and the best example of this I mentioned like a few times, like you wouldn't have stuff like this happen because if it happened on Twitter now, it'd just be a bunch of assholes. The closest example you get of that happening is like when 4chan would like take over those like naming things, and it would always be something racist. Like where like 4chan raided like a what's it now? Like the naming of a new Mountain Dew flavor, and just every single one was like variations on a racial slur. And it's like that's not even funny. That's not even creative. Like, do you know what is creative? Boaty McBoatface.
Karl, I can actually bring up an article from very recently that displays this exact attitude.
Go for it.
It is. I don't know if you saw that this came out. I doubt it, because you're not as like closely into like, the gaming news as I am. But BAFTA released a fan-voted list that's the most influential video game of all time. Fan-voted, not BAFTA panel decided.
So I'm guessing it's gonna be either something. Because let's say if it's gonna be like people being earnest, it's gonna be like doing what we're talking about here, like being funny. It's gonna be something stupid, right? Like oh god, what would be like a really silly game to make like the best game ever? Like I don't know, like Sneak King or something, right?
Well, what I'll do is I'll run through. There's 21 games on the list. I'll run through 21's 20 blitz style. I'll just bullet point them down, and then we'll go through like the top 10, and you'll see like there's a couple of standout ones where it's like, did certain communities just share this onto their subreddits?
Okay.
So 21 Grand Theft Auto 1, 20 Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim, 19 Grand Theft Auto 3, 18 Dark Souls, 17 Final Fantasy 7, 16 Baldur's Gate 3, 15 World of Warcraft, 14 Metal Gear Solid, 13 Pong, 12 Tomb Raider, 11 Tetris. So I'm like, okay, like a couple of weird picks. Like Baldur's Gate 3 hasn't really had time to like influence anything yet.
It's recency bias, right? Of like, it's the game people played last, so it's the one they're going to put first.
But then number 10, The Sims. I don't know like how influential that's necessarily been in terms of there's not a lot of copycats of The Sims, but there's a lot of elements of The Sims that have influenced other series.
But nobody taking part in these like competitions or votes actually considers the question. They just put their favorite.
Basically,
because they're the main characters of the universe, which is why fan votes are fucking useless.
This will show how useless they are, Karl, because number 9, Half-Life 2. Cool. That deserves to be there, right?
On the top 10 at least, yeah.
Yeah. Number 8, Super Mario 64. Again, yeah, just like one of the most influential 3D games of early 3D generations.
Yeah.
Number 7, Karl. Number 7 takes a bit of a different turn.
Oh, is it going to be like one of those fucking like anime games?
No.
Where it's like girl gets tits out or something?
But it's not, but it's a very recent game, and it is Kingdom Come 2 Deliverance, or Kingdom Come Deliverance 2.
Okay.
A game that came out 2 months ago.
Oh, is that one of those like ones that like weirdo right-wing people get annoyed as gay people in it?
No, I think it's just one of those that like people who are really into history, like, you know, medieval buffs and stuff, people really into like HEMA and shit like this, like really like those games, and apparently it's a very good game, one of the highest rated games of the year, but clearly that community just came together and was like, fuck it, let's put this on the list.
Okay.
And it's like, great, just ruin it. Number 6 is Minecraft. Number 5 is Ocarina of Time. 4, Half-Life. Number 3, Super Mario Brothers. Number 2, Doom. So yeah, all I think
I'd rejig a few of those, but
I
I'd
wouldn't
like to
necessarily put them in that order, but I think all deserve to be some of the most influential video games of all time.
yeah, and then number 1, I think we had this conversation in the past. It is unequivocally Tetris, right?
It should be.
Yeah.
Number 1, I don't argue that it's not an influential game, but number 1, most influential game of all time. Can you take a guess?
Okay, so it's not weirdo right-wing people. It's just like really committed players of a specific game who just think that game is their entire world.
Yeah.
Balatro.
No. Someone mentioned Undertale in chat, and that would be a good shout of a community.
The fans of that are incredibly outspoken, and it is a good game. It's not the best game ever made.
Or the most influential, and neither is number 1 on the list. Shenmue.
Fucking weebs.
Yeah. And it's like, Shenmue, great. Influential.
Yakuza is right there, and it shits all over Shenmue.
But it was influenced by Shenmue, as was probably the Persona games. Like, I get it, but not number 1.
No, it's Tetris, right? We've had this conversation. It's always Tetris.
Like, I could see
second
arguments for like a couple of the early games, right? Like
maybe
Tennis
Super
for
Mario.
2, Pong, Pac-Man, Tetris. But yeah, you can just see that like the Shenmue community, the people that got like Shenmue 3 kickstarted into like a fucking massive release where no one bought the game because only Shenmue fans give a shit.
Well, it's a classic thing, right? Of people who are part of a community. It becomes, if you don't interact with other people, which is always a good bit of advice of like, don't allow one community to become the only place you interact, because it really, really does narrow your perspective on a lot of things. Where it's their entire world. They spend all day talking about it. Why would it not be the thing everyone else talks about? Like, we mentioned like weirdo right-wing people where like they spend all their time just in the subreddit for some weird racist YouTuber all day. And they have no original thoughts of their own. They're just waiting for the person that they like to tell them what to say so they can then go to the other subreddits and repeat that argument ad nauseum.
And Shenmue is like one of those where I've had
like not like weird racist,
not
it has
right-wing racism or anything, like just this community that's so like insular and committed to the idea that Shenmue is the greatest and most like underappreciated game of all time. I've heard constantly from Shenmue fans like, no, it was absolutely like the most ahead of its time, balls to the wall game to ever exist. Like, sure, there are influences in there. Like, I think it was the first game to really utilize QuickTime events. Like, as I say, the series like Shin Megami Tensei, Persona, Yakuza, that all seem like they were probably influenced a lot by Shenmue. I don't know the timings on Shin Megami Tensei and stuff like that, though.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's the other side of the coin, right? Where it's altogether less objectionable. It certainly is a lot less like offensive, both in terms of like just being in your face and like, you know, just morally. But it's certainly just as it's not just as, but it can be just as fucking annoying to deal with, right?
How annoying, for example, were the Snyder fans with the Snyder Cut release, right? Like,
Yeah.
the Shenmue 3 thing was almost a gaming equivalent of the Snyder Cut push.
Which is another thing, right? Of like, you've made your entire personality a 6 or 7 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like the phrase we use for this, right? It's like, don't make your entire personality a 6 or 7 out of 10.
And Shenmue's better than the Justice
better than
League,
that, but...
you know, film. But like, yeah, I would definitely just say like, this is a moment where this is why you can't trust fans to vote on anything, because there'll be certain people that rally together to ruin it.
Yeah, and they'll never be objective.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, when me and you had this conversation ages ago, like, we had the whole thing where we went through what our picks would be for, like, you know, if we put in our personal, like, Mount Rushmore of games, or our personal, like, top 5, and then we had the conversation, oh, but objectively, it is Tetris.
Yeah, like, maybe if you were to ask me what's my favourite game or the like, most influential game, I might not necessarily instantly leap to Tetris, but when you just asked me the question, what's the best game ever? My mind, without thought, just was like, it's just objectionably Tetris.
Yeah.
And that is
And
due to its, like, simplicity as well as, like,
its importance,
just
which is earth-shattering.
important and enduring gameplay that's still played to this day, right? Like, people still are releasing Tetris games right now.
I believe the conversation we had is, if you like break down, like, okay, what is a game? Like, what is a video game? Okay, it's like a digital passing of time, right? It's a digital like plaything that you use to pass time that has increasing levels of difficulty and fidelity, with increasing amounts of challenge as you become better at the thing. It's like, it's Tetris,
And
infinite
like,
skill ceiling.
to the point where someone has only, this year or maybe late last year, finally gotten to, like, the death screen where just the game can't continue anymore because go past like a certain number of levels and it just can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And that only happened within the last 12 months of someone on like the NES game from like late 80s, I think it's like 88, something like that. But just, that NES game only just got like truly beaten by someone, nearly 40 years later, because the community had been pushing for higher and higher skill levels this entire time.
Yeah, and one of the things like we talked about during that conversation was, it's so frustrating that when you try and have this conversation, especially online, because there's an awful trend online where people will respond not to the question, they'll respond to the first half of the question. Like, or the written equivalent will be responding to the headline of an article or a video on YouTube, and not listening to even the intro to the video that provides the context, or reading like the first couple of paragraphs of the story to get the context for why it's called that. And they'll make their mind up based on that initial snippet, like the first part of the question, and then answer that or respond to that. Like, for example, on Reddit earlier, I was scrolling to check the news, and there was like a picture of a book. It's a book called Kill All Men. And that is a book. And I looked at that and went, okay, I'm going to just use my brain here and try and assume the context of like, that's probably just a really out there title for a fiction story about a lady serial killer or something, right?
I mean,
and it's called that.
I was assuming that it was going to be some kind of like, like kind of more political leaning book about like the problems of patriarchy or something like that.
Yeah, but you imagine that whatever it is, it's going to have the title, which is like 5 words explained inside, right? And it turns out it is like just a story about like a lady serial killer who's not meant to be taken properly. Because I think I record like an ex reading it or something like that. That's probably why I was knowing it. But let's have a look what Reddit thinks. And everyone's like, I can't believe they publish stuff like this. It's like, man, if like, just why would you make it so simple? It's like just a bunch of guys who read the title and are mad at the title.
Mm-hmm.
They're mad at the title of a book.
And like, that's what the title is there to do, is to grab people's attention, right?
But what's like the most famous saying about the covers of books, Lucas?
To definitely judge a book by its cover.
Yeah. Like one of the most famous and enduring, like, just quotes in human history is, you don't judge a book by its cover.
And I would argue that illustrated covers are there to be judged, but they're there to be judged in terms of, like, just appealing to the eye for the sake of sales, not the contents of the book themselves. Like, I don't look at the book for, like, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Sorry, that was I know I don't want to promote them. JK can eat shit, but the first thing that came to mind of, like, it's got a train on the front. I don't necessarily imagine that the whole story is going to be a train story.
Yes. And yet, that's exactly what happened. And it happens with, like, questions, right? You'll ask people, okay, so what do you think is the most influential video game of all time? They don't hear that question. They just hear video game. What do you think? And they just say their favorite video game.
Yeah, I mean, when generally most
Which is
people,
what happened with that poll, right? It's like a perfect example, right?
yeah, and you know that is that if you go to the subreddit 4 months ago or whatever of the Shenmue like subreddit, it's just holy shit, BAFTA put out a fan voted thing. Let's all get behind this and make sure that Shenmue wins.
Yeah. Even though, like, you think, well, if you, and that's the problem with stuff like where, if you were on that like subreddit and you genuinely think that Shenmue is the greatest game of all time, surely you wouldn't need to pad the numbers and put your thumb on the scale. Because surely, if the question is objectively, what do you think is the most influential game, it would win anyway. Because surely everybody else would agree with you.
Which is
And they never see
kind
that
of
irony.
noted from the fact that the other like ones in the top 10, apart from Kingdom Come, were also pretty valid options for winners, right?
Yeah, it's the wisdom of crowds. I think the term is called, where generally large groups of people, because collective intelligence is like an observable phenomenon, will tend towards the correct answer most of the time. There are of course obvious exceptions.
Because like if you treat the exception to that article being Shenmue, then Doom being number 2 and Super Mario Bros being number 3, I could easily see if someone said to me like, "Look, I'm going to put an argument together for Super Mario Bros being the most influential game ever or Doom." I'd listen to their argument. Whereas
Yeah,
Shenmue, I would categorically be like, "It's influential, but no, I'm not entertaining this argument."
yeah. So you use like the Snyder example, right? If someone wants to say the Snyder Cut movies are fun, I'm okay for them to say it, but they don't say that, do they? They say it was an underappreciated masterpiece that is the greatest piece of superhero cinema ever created. It's like it's not even the best movie that came out that year. Not even the best movie that I'd bet my left nut. It's not even the best movie that came out that fucking month.
And one of the more infuriating parts of the discussion was people insisting that that cut was already finished and got shelved, right?
Yeah,
That's
which is
another
a
element to
conversation
that discussion, which just made it even more infuriating.
more abstracted from the actual point being made. But we get back now to the rat hole. The hole was filled in with plaster or cement by an unknown party on January 19th. So the rat hole had a rat hole saboteur. City officials later confirmed they were the ones who had not filled the hole. So it was a mysterious person went out there and just wanted to spoil everybody's fun.
Oh,
Which always
rogue.
happens, right? Whenever the internet likes something,
Yeah.
there's always some dipshit who's like, "I don't get it, so I'm gonna spit my dummy out."
There's always somebody that's willing to like ruin everyone else's fun, right?
Yep.
Rain on a
Anne Williams
parade.
Anne Williams, the representative for the 11th district, released a video saying she was shocked and saddened by the news, and they were closely monitoring the developing situation. Local residents attempted to excavate the hole using their hands and implements like ice scrapers and license plates.
What they
That's
should have
so
done,
Chicago. Just like hacking at it with a
like
license
fucking
plate.
license plates as digging implements.
Eventually, a woman cleaned out the hole and restored it to its original condition. Following the restoration, Williams wrote, "This is what community is all about." Shortly afterwards, an engagement and marriage ceremony took place at the hole. Some residents of West Roscoe Street expressed frustration with the hole's newfound viral status, with some locals citing public nuisance, vandalism, and the accumulation of garbage on the sidewalk. On April 24th, 2024, the Chicago Department of Transportation removed the sidewalk slab containing the hole while keeping it intact. It is unclear what city officials plan to do with the sidewalk slab. Presumably they'll put it in like a community center or something somewhere, right? Make it like that View Tunnel. Make it just like a local landmark, a quirky local landmark you can go visit.
Like if there's like a city museum in Chicago, like
Well, I'd just make it for the 11th district, right? Like it'd be like going to like a local town hall where sometimes they just have like, here's some weird stuff from our town's history.
Just that reminds me of just like always Parks and Rec of like all the murals just being like these murder scenes of like don't look at that. They were not great times, please.
It's always. I remember there's a great behind the scenes bit they're talking about when they had to get someone in to paint those, and when they gave them the prompt, the person was like, "Really? You want me to paint?"
Yeah, I didn't think about the fact
what?
that someone actually had to sit there and paint those murals.
Yeah, and apparently they were like had to be told like, you need to paint it, but it needs to look bad as well. But like just every time they would have like any moment with Ken Hotate, And he's like, when they come in, he's stood in front of the mural of just like the Pawnee Indians being fucking like shot or like burned at the stake. And just like that act has such good, just like fucking white people
Yeah.
face, right? Where he's just there, like one of my favorite quotes. We mentioned a video a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? Of when Jam, he's like, well, I think you should wear this like Native American headdress and dance around. I was like, no, that would be very offensive. Like, is it white man? It's such a good line. It gets me every time. So when he looks him dead in the eyes, like, is it white man?
So good.
And then finally, debate over the origins of the hole. Despite the hole's popular name, some locals believe it was formed by a squirrel. The director of Lincoln Park's zoo, and that's Lincoln, Lincoln.
Oh,
Not
Abraham
Lincoln
Lincoln.
Park, the band. Because I remember when I went past Lincoln Park when I went to Chicago, and I went, and the person was like, yeah, I know, everyone does that. The Urban Wildlife Institute, Seth Magel, told NBC News Chicago that he believed it was likely a squirrel that fell onto the wet concrete from a tree. So it is concrete. I assume concrete wouldn't be suitable for a road, but apparently it's a sidewalk slab, so my bad. Yeah. Magel also clarified the thinness of the tail cavity, used by some to argue in favour of it being a rat hole, should not be considered, given that fur does not always leave impressions that would last for several decades. Supporting the theory is that one resident stated an old oak tree had existed above the section of sidewalk that had since been cut down. So maybe a squirrel fell out of the tree, landed in the wet cement, left the rat hole.
Or maybe a rat crawled into it. It's a massive city after all, right?
I don't know. Like, and then there's just like some pictures. There's like a picture of the hole, a picture of the hole filled with coins, a picture of the hole in the snow.
Send over one of the pictures that I can put up, just so that like
I will send you this one, Lucas.
What the rat hole looks
the description is the hole on February 18th, surrounded by gifts including flowers because it was after Valentine's Day, coins, glasses, and Pokemon cards. So people were going up and putting Pokemon cards in it. You know what the best bit is as well? When you go on to like the see also section.
Offerings.gif.
Do you know what like the see also section includes?
No.
Pizza rat. Do you have a pizza rat?
Oh, that was just like a rat that was pictured like taking an entire New York style slice of pizza around
into the subway, and everyone's like, "Yeah, fucking you go, pizza rat." But yeah, that is the Chicago rat hole.
This is the Chicago rat hole with offerings coming in.
Now, wasn't that a fun story? I'd like to remind everybody, if you go to our Discord to vote on which wiki won this week, it's not necessarily the subject that is personally most of interest to you. You know, going back to the conversation we had earlier, when we say which wiki do you think won this week, don't vote for which one is your favourite. Vote for which one inspired what you deem to be the most interesting conversation.
Sadly, the only Pokemon card that I can see there seems to be a Fire Energy card.
Fire Energy, right? I just like that after people went there on Valentine's Day and just left fucking flowers in the rat hole. I imagine, like, in Chicago, it's probably a bit more romantic, but if I went up to a girl with my accent and I said to her, do you want me to take you to the rat hole on Valentine's Day? I'd get a slap across the chops. I'd fucking deserve it.
I think, yeah, the way that I interpreted it initially when you said, like, have you heard of the rat hole? I just thought it was some slang for some kind of genitals. Or some sexual thing in some way.
Imagine me telling someone, like, do you want me to fill your rat hole?
Say that, Karl.
Exactly.
Like, it sounds like that's something you shouldn't be allowed to say.
He shouldn't be, right? He sounds like he should be censored.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chicago rat hole. Are we going to take a break now, or do you want to get straight into your entry?
No, I'll take a quick break to just like grab another drink and stay hydrated.
Ginormo Miley on screen. Let's go.
So we will have Ginormo. So got Big Miley. Break time, and then play some for you all, and we'll be back in a few minutes.
Perfect. Back in a sec. Yeah, and I thought while I was getting myself a beverage, I thought to myself, Mark could go for a nice pint of rat right now. And I tracked down the picture. Just when you're on the rat.
What's it say?
It's just
white rat.
When you got to get on the rat, and the logo is just a little rat with a hop. So I just like because the other pint that I had was just called Rat, but then I was in another pub that had White Rat on it. So I just sent that picture to the mate where we had some rat and went, I'm on the rat tonight.
And speaking of which, I was actually going to mention, like,
Okay.
we haven't discussed this in advance, so feel free to answer honestly.
Yes.
Maybe for like the 100th episode, we just crack a drink open.
Yeah, we've not really made that a thing because I think we're both older now. I know we drank a lot in the Fact Fiend days, but you've got to remember for the Fact Fiend days, we were in our 20s and we were recording those videos like usually online before we went out. We're recording like Wiki Weekends content. Even though it goes out on the weekend, we record on a Monday, which is like when me and Lucas start our work weeks.
Yeah, well, to be fair, nowadays, like, I'm normally working of a weekend at Nando's, and then my weekends now tend to be like maybe like a Thursday or something. Like, I just take like a Thursday off or something.
I will try and track down a nice pint of rat, but for context, I'm going to a stag do this weekend in Benidorm.
Yeah, like, this is why I was like, feel free to say no, because I know you're going to be like drinking in Benidorm all weekend this weekend.
Yeah, my friend has already told me that. Well, he wants to drink on Friday, he wants to drink on Saturday, he wants to drink on Sunday, and he wants to drink on Monday.
I mean, it's a stag do. I get why that's like...
Yeah, and it's his stag do as well, so I get it. But at the same time, I've told him, your wedding is a month afterwards. I'm not drinking for that entire month afterwards because I'll die. That's way too many calories. But I might have like I might go get stuff like a nice pint of rat or a Guinness or something. A stag do is a bachelor party for Americans.
Yes, yeah.
Stag.
For some reason it's stags and hens over here. So I don't quite know whether, like, because a stag and a hen getting together, that's not a good relationship right there.
It's not, but neither is like, an alien from Venus, an alien from Mars, or a bird and a bee.
You don't know that aliens from Venus and Mars aren't compatible, Karl?
You know what? I don't know what kind of crazy alien rat they've got going on down there.
Books.
Like, let's go. Let's... My favourite part of Wiki Weekends is when I say something really out of pocket, and if people watch when I say stuff like that, you'll see me glance really quickly to the side to see if Lucas reacts the way I want, which is when he just goes, "Oh no."
It's when Karl says things that I deem inappropriate.
Like, get your rat out.
Anyway, speaking of inappropriate,
yes.
My subject this week is something that, like, often gets to the point of being inappropriate.
Which is?
Well, I decided to, I wanted to mix things up in some way because I'm aware that, like, we generally stick to similar tropes, and, like, what I thought I'd mix it up is that I'm talking about a video game today, or a series of video games. But normally we talk about video games that we both, or at least one of us, has a lot of an affinity for and very much enjoy.
Yes.
Not so much today, because, you'll learn soon. Maybe one of us doesn't like this series of games, and that is, of course, the Jackbox games. And I knew that just immediately the moment I put that image on the thumbnail for today's podcast, I was going to get Karl triggered.
Okay, so I'm not gonna tell. Should I tell the story of why I fucking hate Jackbox? No, I'll wait. Let's keep you on the hook for a little bit.
Okay. I more meant just tell it in the podcast at some point, but yeah,
I will.
So Jackbox Games Incorporated, formerly Jellyvision Games Incorporated.
They rebranded when they realized what was popular, right?
Yes. They are an American video game developer based in Chicago. I didn't even know.
Oh,
we've got a Chicago themed episode.
Let's go. Let's get your rat off for the Chicagoans.
I had no idea.
What do you call? Is it Chicagoans? Would it be? Oh, they got like a dumb nickname for himself.
The Windies. I don't know. It's the Windy City, right?
I think that's Seattle.
I don't fucking know.
I
don't know. Like, we don't even live in the country.
Yeah. And if any Americans like, how do you not know? It's like, okay, you tell me, what do people from like Liverpool call themselves, or Manchester? Do you know about the Pontefract Massive? No, you fucking don't, do you? Yeah.
I was gonna say, like,
you don't know about
Liverpool is like one we've spoken about quite a few times before with Scousers, but yeah, do you know what like people from Manchester are called, as you say, like people from Birmingham.
Yeah.
But yeah,
What about like, people from down south? The enemy.
down south.
Down south. Do you know what they're called? Pricks. That's not very nice.
It's not very wrong either.
True. But tell me more about Jackbox games.
They are best known for the You Don't Know Jack series of quiz-based party video games and the Jackbox Party Pack series. So I imagine that when their most successful series of games became You Don't Know Jack, they then rebranded to Jackbox Games.
Mm-hmm.
But it was founded by Harry Gottlieb. The company operated as Jellyvision Games from 1995 until its closure in 2001. After 7 years of dormancy, Jellyvision Games was revived in 2008, and the company rebranded as Jackbox Games in 2013. So a very short-lived time of like reviving this company to use their branding and then immediately rebranding anyway.
Yeah.
But it was originally founded by Harry as an educational entertainment company called Learn Television. Prior to developing You Don't Know Jack, the company created a children's trivia game called That's a Fact, Jack.
Do you know what? I'm getting like big Five Nights at Freddy's vibes from this story. So, do you know the story behind like Five Nights at Freddy's?
Wasn't that a person that was like developing Bible games or some shit?
Yeah. They were developing like Christian role-playing games or something like that. Not like role-playing in like the sex sense, but like games where kids, like Christian games. And they were just shit at modeling. And every time they tried to make like a model, they got told it's too terrifying. We're not putting in a kids game.
Mm-hmm.
So they made a horror game out of him instead.
I mean, that's leaning into your strengths, right?
Well, or your weaknesses, I suppose. Like everything you make looks terrible.
Well, one man's trash is another man's treasure, as they say.
True. I cannot get over the fact that's like a whole series with lore.
It's
wild, right?
And obviously they leaned into it way more because that game series would not be anywhere near as popular or probably lore heavy if it weren't for the fact that MatPat and Game Theory were all over it from an early time. Like the first one went viral before that because of all like the jump scare moments on Twitch and clips and stuff like that. But
it's not even a game. So I'd say Joey talked earlier, well, how would you define a game? I'd say like Five Nights at Freddy's is about as close to the knuckle you can get. Of like, I wouldn't even consider it a game.
I don't know because like, I still consider things like visual novels games, right? So it's got like more.
You press more buttons in a visual novel.
Yeah, but
there's more like interaction in a visual novel. So at least you get to turn the page.
We talked recently on Fact Fiend about Night Trap.
Yes.
And also, fuck you for putting in the Get Right Lucas moment.
I thought it was just really funny.
I found it funny too, but I clicked on the video and was like, oh, what are the comments saying? And one of the first comments was like, yeah, Get Right Lucas. I was like,
it's done in a joking way.
Of course, I know that. I found it funny when I watched the clip, but yeah, I just made like an off-the-cuff guesstimation about the amount of length of footage in Night Trap, right? And I was like way off, and you just put in as an edit like Get Wrecked Lucas, it's actually this much.
And I'll give props as well. I completely stole that joke. I'll admit that from Red Letter Media. But they have like a running gag in their videos where if someone's wrong, they'll zoom in on the person's face and just the word wrong appears over their face.
But yeah, we talked about Night Trap, and I would, if you could consider Night Trap a video game, I would also consider Five Nights at Freddy's about as much of a video game.
But Night Trap actually has more video game because I think I looked this up. Like I looked at like the first like Five Nights at Freddy's, but I didn't put this comparison in when we talked about it because we don't know much about the game. But there's like 4 or 5 screens in Five Nights at Freddy's. There's like 7 in Night Trap. Not to mention in Night Trap, they change like the button you've got to press. Mm-hmm. There's also the footage that you're watching is constantly moving, whereas in Five Nights at Freddy's, it's largely static for like 90% of the game.
I know. Just to clarify for like I chat Stephen here, just like visual novel is like literally if you click on the Wikipedia, it is a form of digital interactional fiction that are often associated with the medium video games. They're not
Yeah, 'cause
often
it's like choose your own adventure stories, right? You get to pick
like
normally. You get to pick
a lot of the
responses and
time
things.
the visual novels include choices, so therefore it's more interactive than just it's not just a visual novel in the literal sense of like reading something on a screen.
Yeah, it's like think of a choose your own adventure book, like
Mhm.
Goosebumps or something like that. But that's not a video game. But if you translate that format to digitally interactive, that would be a video game. And like I said, I think there's more interaction in a visual novel and Night Trap than there is in Five Nights at Freddy's, just because there's more visual feedback. But
There's a lot
you
of
know,
visual feedback in Five Nights at Freddy's, and a lot of the time it's just jumping at your face.
but you know, it's just not a game for me.
Yeah, no, it definitely isn't a game for me either. Not be I don't like horror games and I don't like shit games.
I also don't like
So
jump scares, the cheapest form of scares.
yeah, exactly. Like I'm not a person. I'm probably assuming that similar to myself, you sat down in like video game society when we are all playing like Slender and like had a crack at that for 10 minutes and went, oh yeah, okay,
I
the
get
jump
it.
scare happened. I get it now. And that's as far as it goes for me. It's like, oh, it's a bit tense for like 5-10 minutes, and then the jump scare happens, and you're like,
Yeah.
okay.
There's no atmosphere. But you
Um,
know, we're talking about an entirely different gaming
we
experience
are,
now in Jackbox. So tell me more about
but
Jackbox.
yeah. In 2001, the sorry, I think I yeah. So I skipped a little bit there. Um, so there's the You Don't Know Jack games, and then that was originally like a PC game in 1995, and like that is just a an interactive like oh no sorry you that's a fact Jack came out in
The
1995,
kids game, yeah.
which was the kids game. I lost a bit of track on where I was in the wiki here, and then the first You Don't Know Jack was originally a PC game, was established as a successful franchise, and they produced numerous installments of You Don't Know Jack from 1995 through 1998. And then in 2001, the computer game market shifted as players moved from personal computers to home consoles of the sixth generation, which is from the timing. I imagine that's like PS2, GameCube, Xbox,
Yeah,
and
get rep PC players.
like Dreamcast, kind of, even though that died on its arse immediately. But yeah, it does say like they tried to make console-based versions of You Don't Know Jack. These games were unsuccessful, and then Jellyvision Games
That's gotta
was
suck,
shelved.
right? They made like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, the game.
I was about to say, because I remember there being loads of quiz games on like the PS1 and PS2 and stuff that I played, and there was like the Buzz quizzes and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Which even had their own controller, right?
Yeah, the Buzz controller where you buzzed in, and
Yeah. Like,
I'm
man.
sure you could do the exact same on a PlayStation controller of whoever presses
Oh yeah.
X first, but
It gamified that pro like
it makes it more like toyetic, right? It makes it
yeah.
more fun for a kid to have the big red buzzer that they play with and press like they see on a TV show, right?
It had like the interactive host and stuff like that, didn't it? And I guess we've got to, because if we don't mention it, someone probably will. But are you familiar with like the most infamous and literally illegal of those like shitty quiz games? This is probably a Wiki Weekends we'd have to do. Sorry, well, an entry we'd have to do as a Wiki Weekdays because there ain't no fucking way I'm looking for clips of this.
Was it maybe not then, but was it that mobile game that was offering people winning real money like a few years back?
No, but that'd be interesting to look up. It is the Guy game. Are you familiar with the Guy game?
I don't recall
You might not want to
off
Google
the
it.
top of my head.
You might not want to Google this.
Oh, it's an adult video game
Okay,
developed by Top Heavy Studios.
So the gimmick was it's just a really generic quiz game. But they would get hot ladies who were at like spring break. So think of like, do you know those like shitty like exploitative videos where like guys would go to spring break and record like women taking their tops off? It was that. And some guys are like, well, how about we film it? Slap it into a video game, and if you get the answer right, the lady takes the top off. And he went and he paid a bunch of women to take the top off of this. Turns out a couple of the women who he paid, he didn't get to sign a proper like waiver, because if he would have done, he would have realised that they were underage.
Oh, so that's where
So
this
the
was
game
going. Yeah.
is literally child pornography, and it is illegal to own.
God damn, I just googled that without.
Yeah, that's what I told you not to.
I know. Oh God, fuck.
Well, at least you didn't Google buy. If you Google that, get buy, because apparently every now and again you'll see like people on Reddit will be like, oh, "Why is this shitty quiz game selling for like 300 quid at this market?" And it's like you should probably
Oh.
report that guy because he's literally because if they just had it for like 2 quid in like a bargain bin, they probably just have it in a bunch of games, right? If they're charging 300 quid for it, they know what they've got.
They know what it is, yeah.
They know what it is, and they know that it is incredibly difficult because every fucking copy was burned or landfilled.
And that means that even if they're not necessarily interested in that game themselves, they are willing to like profiteer off other people that are.
Yes.
And it's not like they're taking that person's money that I've got a problem with. You should just not be wanting to interact with those people.
You should probably also as well not want it in your store.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that would be an interesting conversation to have because, like, the story of it is just so wild. It's like, how did this thing exist?
Yeah.
But also, I'm not putting that in a real episode.
Oh, obviously.
I'm not looking for clips of that.
Yeah, you don't need to even explain why, yeah.
But it's a fascinating story. But I thought, like, of all the quiz games, that's like the most infamous of all of them.
Yeah, man, this is kind of wild because it just seems as though they were then shuttered and couldn't figure it out. And in 2008, when mobile games and devices became more popular, they were like brought back. But yeah, the fact that like they had to release an iOS application of You Don't Know Jack and in partnership with THQ console version in 2011. So the fact that like that, I can't remember exactly what it was called. Was it just like Buzz?
I think it might have been, yeah.
Because
I will say it's an interesting idea. It's not novel. Also, it probably was at the time, but it's not like a novel idea, but a quiz. Like we've mentioned like there's a bunch of ideas in there, but I will give them props for making a very accessible game. Too accessible, in my opinion.
They did, and it does seem here that Buzz is listed at having at least like with from 2005 to 2010, there's like 18 games at least that they made in the span of 5 years.
It was it was Guitar Hero for families, right?
Yeah, maybe from 2005 they saw the success of Buzz for a couple of years and went, no, we can bring this back, we can do it. But the fact that it took them until 2011, when Buzz had seemingly already died on its ass, to actually get it onto consoles is kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's like Buzz probably could have stuck around if they started, because I think later ones started putting like mini games and things in.
Right.
It kind of lost its identity, but it's like at that point, why would we not just play like Mario Party or like WarioWare or something?
And I presume as well, like there was probably a lot more access to mobile free quizzes and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, it was like that one, is it, where you hold like your phone against your head?
Yeah, the one where you like nod
right?
or thingy if you get the answer. I can't remember what those series of games are called, but yeah.
I hate all of them.
Heads Up, I think it might be. Correct me in chat if that's wrong, but yeah. We've definitely like cracked that out a few times, like family parties and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And similar to what happens a lot of the time with Jackbox games. Like I own multiple Jackbox party packs. I don't know if I own any of the You Don't Know Jack games, but later on, they decided to start making games where you could use smartphones or tablets as controllers rather than actual game controllers, which is essentially what gave this game a new life over everything else, right?
Yes.
That was the thing that made it so easy and accessible is, hey, everyone's just got a tablet or a phone that they can connect to the internet. Everyone knows how to use that device. They're scared of buttons on a pad, but they're not scared of the phone they use every day.
Yeah, plus as well, it's the same reason why like pub quizzes started incorporating mobile phones. If people are going to sit there looking at their phones, at least this way, they're playing the game. they can't cheat and they also can't get distracted because the thing that they need to interact with the game is the thing that will distract them or allow them to cheat.
Yeah, and then it does from like 2013 onwards, just Jackbox were releasing more apps, including Clone Booth, which is a humorous photo manipulation app, and the game's Lie Swatter, which is a find the lies games of unusual facts, and Word Puts, which is a word-based game, and
They were
seemingly
throwing
they've like put out versions of those games within Jackbox party packs with better names since then.
Yeah, they were like just throwing shit at a wall to see what sticks.
And then they released Fibbage, the hilarious bluffing party game, on Amazon Fire TV and a digital-only title on Xbox One, PS3, and PS4 in September 2014. And yeah, Fibbage, it says, like, proved successful with players, particularly using streaming media services like Twitch, because you could get viewers involved, because you just play it over the internet.
Yes.
And yeah, like I've done a couple of streams in the past where I play like Jackbox party games, and it works to a reasonable amount, and they've incorporated more like audience features and stuff in the future since then. But yeah, just Fibbage was that first one that I kind of remember hearing about. Like I'd vaguely heard of You Don't Know Jack, but Fibbage was kind of the one that I think put them on the map.
It was, yeah, and like I played the games, like I enjoyed them when I played them. So getting to like my issues with like the Jackbox games now is one, like you need to get a very specific group of people together.
Yeah.
You need to all understand each other's vibe. And if you don't, it's just an exercise in frustration. Because if you get someone who just puts like "cum" for every answer,
yeah,
it's not funny.
It's what quickly turned me off playing certain games on Jackbox games, or playing games like Cards Against Humanity, where just unless you know you've got the fun group with good answers and a good sense of humor that lines up with your sense of humor, or like humor subjective, a sense of humor where you're all kind of aligned in the group. Like if you're not, it just becomes shambolic and not fun.
Also, you need someone who's not a stickler for the rules. So I have a few examples here. I think to when I was playing beer pong at a house party once. A lot of people play beer pong. I remember once I was playing beer pong, my mate has set the table up. I was like, "Would you play a game?" It's like, "Yeah, sure." Just like grab the ball, shake the dude's hand. I we met him like early that evening. Go to throw the thing. Went, "Okay, you got to take a sip." So what? It's like your elbows over the table. You're not allowed to do that. So, okay, take a sip. Oh, you had like one hand on the table. You've got to take a sip. Now just put the ball down and went, "I don't want to play anymore." It's not fun because you've gamified it, and the reason people do that is because they want to win.
Yeah.
And presumably you've got horror stories yourself of like someone who is like such a stickler for the rules because they don't actually care about the social aspects of the game. They care about the game aspects of the game and they want to win.
Yeah, there'd be certain people that you'd play, like, I think it has a different name in America again, but like over here we call it Ring of Fire, which is just like a popular game that people, especially students, play for like, you know, pre-drinking before you go on a night out or whatever, or just generally like a social drinking game. Normally, that's how it's played, right? And the idea is to have a laugh and have a couple of drinks and to like encourage people to like get to know each other while also like, you know, pre-gaming for a night out.
Yeah, like just any of those like drinking games, right? Where just the idea isn't to win the game or even to answer correctly. It's just about breaking the ice. It's like Never Have I Ever or something like that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Or like Truth or Dare. I've played like Never Have I Ever or Truth or Dare and had someone like, "Oh, I'm not comfortable answering that question," or "I don't know." And like most people, but okay, that's fine. But that's like, "No, you got to drink. You got to drink. You got to do it. You didn't do the thing."
Similarly, just someone that gets really arsehole-ish with the rules in Ring of Fire, where just, oh yeah, like, you know, oh, you'll do like Waterfall, where like, oh, well, you can only stop drinking when the person before you stops drinking, so it like goes around in a loop and it waterfalls, so to speak, and just you'll get people like, well, technically you weren't like, you stopped drinking before the person before you stopped drinking, like you've got to now down your pint or something, or oh well, you actually taking like really slow sips, so you didn't have to drink that much. That's not the correct way to do it.
Yeah.
just the whole point is to just play a silly game, get around the table, and all have a laugh. And you're
Yeah.
just taking that experience away, right?
Yeah, like the whole, we're not doing this, like you said, they're not enjoying it for the social aspect, they're enjoying it for the game aspect. Like, in regards to games, I think of, like, an old friend that I'd play a game with, and it got, if you didn't press start right away after they won, because they were really good at it, so they wanted to play it, and they'd always do like, they insist on the winner stays on.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd be like, no, winner stays on, and they win like 10 in a row. And if, like, it took too long for the next person to play, and like the screen went to the main menu, they'd get mad that people didn't press start quick enough, because then you couldn't see how many times they've won in a row.
Right. Yeah.
And it's just, we very quickly just stopped playing that game.
Yeah. That's fair.
Because it wasn't about playing the game, it was about people sitting there watching them win.
Yeah. And prove it a point, right? Especially with like the keeping your score streak on the game and shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
in regards to like Jackbox, right? There are people who like, you have to answer it this way, or they'll try and gamify it and just specifically start calling specific things, or if they're an asshole, they'll pick on one member of the party, right?
yeah, of course.
Their answers.
Don't get me wrong, there are groups of friends that I've played Jackbox party games with where I find it really enjoyable, but I've quickly learned the right groups of friends to suggest putting Jackbox on around.
Mm-hmm.
And including not just like arsehole-ish people or people aren't necessarily like deemed funny by me. Like it's not as much about that. It's like just people that want to harsh the vibes. Or when it's like, say for example, like there was one time, just like where other family members are like, oh, what game are you kids playing? It's like, then like, oh well, trying to teach like my parents how to like get it working on the phone, and then it's like, oh, but I don't have a charger and my battery's low, and now, oh, I'm not like pressing it enough, so the page is like refreshed on me, and I don't know how to get back into the game, and it just becomes like a technical nightmare.
Yeah.
And you don't want to spend half your time just trying to spend what's meant to be like a fun gaming experience, just trying to figure out technical problems constantly, right?
Yeah, and I think the other, like, there's as many flavors of like individual who can ruin the game. The other one I could think is the group that I would play with, and just a couple of people in it would just keep putting in jokes that not every member of the party got, but would all upvote each other, so they would always win. And it's like, so literally read the room.
Yeah.
This is a joke only 40% of the people here get.
Yeah.
Right? It's inherently unwelcoming.
Or I should say someone that just like keeps putting just the same answer until they get the upvote, right? Of like, just putting like sex every time, or like penis. Like,
and it's not funny.
For a penis to be funny, you've got to know exactly when to use it correctly. Like there is a time and place where just putting a very simple like one word answer that's very, basic and predictable, like penis. There is a time and place where that can hit right, but to just sit there and put penis for every answer.
Yeah. So you need to be like, it requires a level of social literacy. I think to like, because I used to do stand-up and improv comedy, and I won't call any specific examples, but I'll use the example of The Office. Do you know, like Michael goes to improv?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I always pull out a gun to immediately escalate the situation. And you see like the people in that group just not want to be there when he's there, because just you immediately make everything about you, and you're not funny.
It's very funny though, because I was listening to an interview with Ken Jeong where he was talking about this scene for like a moment where just Michael Scott the character is not funny, right? He's not good at improv, he's not funny. But Ken Jeong was one of those extras who was like one of the people just getting shot every time he does anything.
Okay.
And he talked about the fact that Steve Carell, even in that scene, was like so funny to be around.
Yeah,
And
'cause he
like,
was part of the Second City Players. Speaking of Chicago, Second City Players was like a really famous improv group. A lot of people there end up on like TV and SNL and stuff. They believe Steve Carell was a member.
and we'll have to talk about SNL at some point soon because like SNL UK is apparently a thing that's now in production.
Why would we need that? We've got panel shows and
It's not
we,
a thing that we're good at. Like, we can be good at improv, but it's just a format that I don't think works very well for an English sense of audience.
I think like there's no individual part of SNL that won't work. Like the hosting format that can work. It's just light entertainment, right? We have like Saturday night television that does that. The skits, we can do that. We have plenty of skit shows. Like you had like the Tim Vine one. You had like Armstrong and Miller and stuff like that. It's just that I don't think it's all that important to have SNL like we had for a while. Remember when it was like Catherine Ryan and 'cause it's always Catherine Ryan and Jimmy Carr. They had like that weekly Friday show where it's just like recapping the news, which is essentially what SNL is, right?
I didn't even know that show existed.
Well, you had like Frankie Boyle's like New World Order, or Charlie Brooker's like a Weekly Wipe and Screen Wipe.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same basic thing, right? Just add a few skits to it. And Charlie Brooker did record skits and bits.
Yeah, yeah.
Much for that. Bring fucking Weekly Wipe back.
Charlie Brooker's too busy with like season 7 of Black Mirror nowadays.
Yeah. So I don't think any individual part of SNL can't be translated to a British audience. I just don't see the point.
I obviously
guess
think that the humour would have to be very different, but they're gonna get British writers and comics in and stuff like that. Right?
Yeah. The one thing I can see as being interesting about it is the idea of the rolling host.
Mm-hmm.
That could be interesting. So I would be interested in seeing that aspect.
Yeah, it's going to
but
be
you know
Jimmy
it's going to be
Carr,
the same 6 comedians.
Jimmy Carr and John Richardson and
That's usually the thing
like
about SNL.
anyone that's been on 8 out of 10 Cat Stores Countdown.
Yeah, sometimes they're like, "Hey, just random SNL." It's like Tom Hanks is hosting this week. Like, wait, what? Tom Hanks? Let's go. I want to see Tom Hanks like give me a funny monologue.
But that's it's similar to like the Tim Robinson stuff of like I think Eve. The amount of podcasts I listen to where it's like mostly Americans talking about how funny that show is and how funny SNL skits are, and then I watch any of it and I'm like,
I think you should
understand.
leave. Does have though. I think with SNL and like I think you should leave. There's a couple that you just need to like sing like. I think you should leave. What the fucking hot dog one is fucking incredible.
That's the one that like we need to find the guy that did this, right?
Yeah, like, it's a context like or setup is a bunch of people in a store and there's a fucking like Wienermobile that's crashed through the front and everyone's like, "Oh my god, are you okay?" Just smash cut to Tim Robinson in a hot dog costume. Of like, look, I think we're all looking for the guy who did this.
Yeah, that was the one that I've laughed at. Like, there's a couple of others that I've seen of like the him opening
one, right?
a door the wrong way and him ordering so like fast food and saying like I'll get the ones behind so that he drives back around and orders a ridiculous amount, and then there's like the zip line one, and just I didn't get why any of these were necessarily meant to be funny apart from the like we need to find the guy who did this one.
The old man one is fucking incredible. It put me on my ass first time I saw it. So it's like set up like one of those classic like clip shows or like your crazy host is like, I'm gonna put on a crazy costume and go prank the public. And then like showing the makeup chair and it smash cuts to like the fucking worst outfit you have ever. I'll find it because it just smash cuts to him wearing.
I'm not saying that all of it is bad, but just what I've experienced of it, I didn't get that sense of humor very much at all. As similar to like SNL, I just don't really vibe with it as much.
Okay, so keep in mind, like for the first like 2 minutes, it's set up like, oh, you imagine like John Gordon Ramsay would go put like full face of makeup on and looks like somebody else, and then this is what his smash cuts to him walking through the mall dressed like.
No, dear God.
And you just see like a huge muscle suit on, and he just sits there and he's like, I don't even want to be around anymore. Just here under the mic, just fucking falling apart. It's surreal. Let's think about like Eric Andre, right? Of not everything on that's a
Eric
winner.
Andre is one where, yeah, the things that I have like found funny, I have found hilariously funny.
Like, not everything is a winner, but some of them are like the funniest fucking thing. Like, we always talk about what the Lance Reddick
Oh
one,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
might be one of the funniest fucking things ever of Lance Reddick coming out of the LeVar Burton.
I want to be LeVar Burton.
Give me my sleeve roll.
God damn.
It's so good.
That is
Oh.
one of the really funny ones. And like Lance Reddick was just funny in like every skit that I'd seen him in. Like the I can't remember the name of it now, but it was like the Toys on Me or something like that.
Oh yeah, just fucking yelling at people, right?
Yeah. And
There's
shit.
some good ones.
Yeah, obviously, like that's the aim with sketch shows, right? Is that if you didn't find one funny, there's another along the way in 2 minutes.
Yeah, that's the thing about SNL, right? It's like every week, it's not all gonna be winners. Like, think about SNL. We got Lonely Island out of that.
Yeah, yeah. I think that might be the thing that I find funniest. Like, I think Wayne's World is like pretty. Like, I liked Wayne's World. I didn't necessarily think Wayne's World is super hilarious, but I
The
think it was a
skit
good
wasn't that
watch.
funny. Yeah, the characters are interesting, and I like the film.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Wayne's World's one of my favorite films, one of my go-to date movies. Like, if I'm on like first date and we're doing like the Netflix and chill, it's like, let's put Wayne's World on.
Yeah, but I did. It wasn't sit there with raucous laughter the entire time or anything.
Well, speaking of like party faux pas, that's like the other faux pas, right? Of like you put Jackbox on, you get people out into it. But I think the biggest party faux pas for our generation is when you that classic thing. Everyone's probably experienced it if you're around our age and hang around with friends and have a few beers. Is
When you get your
let's
out.
put shit on YouTube. Do you like the things like let's just put shit on YouTube and usually like it's okay. Who's got a funny video that's like a couple minutes long? But
And
when
then
someone
Carl's
puts on like,
how about an hour-long French compilation of weird skits?
the thing is that's just background noise.
No,
right?
I know. Yeah. I'm
But
joking.
like when someone picks like a video that is one, not funny, and two, way too long, and then three, they do that thing where they look at you waiting for you to laugh.
This
Kills the
actually
vibe.
happened in our friend group at one point, where I was just the one in the room who just didn't vibe with watching this like really bad like Irish martial arts movie for an hour.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Remember
you
that,
guys
like-
were all just sat there like, yeah, I'm totally on board, and I was just like, I don't get it.
Yeah, like I think, and I've had it before. Like I've walked into or been in house parties where people put on like, let's put on a PewDiePie compilation. I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake! And it's like 40 minutes of just no. Like 5 minutes, I'll sit through that, but when it's like the 40-minute compilation, and they were like, "Oh no, here's a good one coming up."
There was
It's like,
one that did break me at one point though. Of I was sat there for a long time with you was all cracking up, but eventually it got me there. Of Too Many Cooks.
Too Many Cooks. Like the thing is, Too Many Cooks is genius because if you don't get it, that only makes it funnier for everybody else.
Yeah, like it took me a while to like really crack under the pressure of Too Many Cooks.
Because Too Many
even
Cooks
I
is
got
like,
there, yeah.
Yeah, Too Many Cooks is like the digital equivalent of the rat hole, where you're not allowed to tell people what it is. You just have to put it on without context and then just wait.
And if anyone doesn't know what Too Many Cooks are, we're not going to explain it.
We're not going to explain it. Also, don't watch it on your own. Find a friend who knows what it is and ask them, and watch it with them.
I don't think I'd argue.
You can watch it on your own.
You can watch it on your own if you really want to.
It should be a shared experience. But never forget, Lucas, like that's one of my most treasured memories with you. It was me, you, and Charlie just sat all he knows already. We were like 3 a.m, watching shit on YouTube with a takeaway, as you do after like a night out. And we just had like a compilation of funny videos on, and just randomly out of nowhere it cuts to like that live
I think it was
chat
like
thing.
VR chat or something.
VR
like...
chat, that's it. And it's just a little Kermit the Frog running around like, hey baby. And he just leaps off a building. He's like, I'm going to Kermit suicide. And so just the blown out speaker music plays as it zooms in. And something about that just, it broke us.
We were
That
just
was like 10 minutes.
We were just at that point where we'd spent all day like having having a few drinks, playing Smash Bros for like 8 hours straight. And then just like, let's get a takeaway and put a YouTube compilation on. And we were just at that point of the night where like we were at breaking point, and that one clip just sent us over the edge.
Just I'm going to commit suicide. And the other thing, it's like it's a 30-second clip.
Yeah.
And if people don't have the same response to it, you get another one in 30 seconds. But I said I remember that one when I was at the party and someone put on like the 45-minute long PewDiePie compilation. I'm like, I think I'm just gonna go.
And that can, kind of be relevant to Jackbox in a sense of like,
Yes.
a lot of the time you're relying on the games and the prompts being funny themselves, right?
So should I tell the story of like why I hate Jackbox then?
Let's get into that, yeah.
Okay, so I hate Jackbox for multiple reasons. One is that I just had a group of friends who played it all the time. And as a result, like it got boring.
Similar to myself with like Cards Against Humanity is we played Cards Against Humanity so much towards like the end of uni that we all made a custom deck of prompts and answers that were in jokes because there was like the same group of like 7 of us that were playing and we were aware that it was just us that was going to be playing it. So the only way to keep it funny was to like just make it in jokes and make our own custom cards.
Yeah, and it's like at a certain point it just stopped being fun. But then the other reason is because when I was writing, I still do write, but back in like my days when I was like freelancing all over the joint, I was still on Facebook and I was a member of a couple of writers groups. And there was one guy who wrote, and I'm using write here with massive fucking air quotes, he wrote for Jackbox games. And
which I don't want to discredit people. That is a legitimate gig. It is a thing that like it's a job that needs to be done, and it's a job you need to be good at because, as I say, the bad prompts like ruin an entire game session.
They can kill an entire evening's vibe, yeah. I'm not going to speak to the quality of what they did, but you would think they'd written fucking Moby Dick. Like you'd think like it was the single most impactful thing that had ever been created in human history. And keep in mind, a Jackbox game will have a dozen writers. And like a Jackbox selection is like 6 different games with a dozen writers. And there's also people like, voice actors. And like there's graphics teams, right? Like it is the sum of its parts. And just this person never shut the fuck up about the fact they submitted. And I think I looked it up. And they'd not even written all the questions, they'd written like 6 or 7. Like it wasn't even that many, but they were still had to be credited as a writer because they of the suggestions that they co-wrote with a bunch of people, some of theirs made it in, and just they never shut up about it. And they would like every single time it was anything like when I was like submitting questions for Jackbox games, like well that's fine, but I'm not asking about that. I'm asking I do research for an article for a golf website.
Well, when I was researching golf for my golf-based prompts in Jackbox.
And the reason why I ended up hating Jackbox specifically is because that person, I remember when FactFiend took off. So when FactFiend took off, I was still on Facebook at the time. And I got a message from that person. It's like the first time they'd ever like directly messaged me. Like we talked like in group chats and stuff like that, but it's the first time they directly messaged me on Facebook. And it was like, oh hey, you write for that FactFiend website, right? And I was thinking, no, it's a piss take because it's my website, my name's on all of it. All of my profile banner says like I write for FactFiend because the channel was taken off and stuff like that. So it was my brand. I turned my face page into a brand page. So yeah, I do that. And it's like, yeah, can you put me in touch with the owner? I think he'd benefit from some of the stuff that I've written because I've read some of his stuff and I don't think it's that good. And it could do an improvement. I'm like, fuck you.
You know what? You're already speaking to the manager.
But it's that thing of like, I wouldn't have minded that, but it's just the fact it's like, then he started like just put the dig in of like, yeah, I don't think the guy's that good a writer. He could probably do some improvement. And it's like, because I have written for some really big things like Jackbox. And I was like, fuck off.
Because that's when I was like, okay, if they reached out to you for some work and just didn't research very well, ironically, that you're the owner, not just a writer, then fair enough, I get it. But I was thinking that's a bit of an extreme thing to like hate this thing over. But when it's the dig in their own grave of like, actually, I had a look at their work and it's not that good.
Yeah, and it's like I said, he never shut the. And obviously, they had other published work elsewhere online, but they made it their entire personality. And they'd like every time, it's like they'd go to like the Jackbox group, and if people were like talking about like, oh yeah, I had fun playing Jackbox, or like on Twitter, people like the hashtag respond to the hashtag like, oh well, I wrote some of those questions, so I hope you found it fun. It's like get over it.
Yeah, and
It just by extension, I end up hating Jackbox just because I hate that guy.
I
Not and hate's a strong word, just I found myself frustrated with them.
but yeah, it's one of those of like you get trivially riled up when this is like mentioned to you. It's not like you're on an active like you know
Mhm.
path of destruction against Jackbox or anything. It's not a tirade. It's just man, that person pissed me off a lot, and they're in your brain they're tangentially related to Jackbox.
It's all I think about when I think of Jackbox, 'cause it's all they ever talked about.
Yeah.
I think about this the most like I guess a more not more apt, but a comparison maybe people can like empathize with or experience more is like that someone who goes to like I don't know. Is it like Italy where people the meme like they go to Italy for a week and like they just never they bring it up every time they have a pizza.
I think that's everywhere, right? Is like I was extremely aware to not be that person when I'm now being that person, but obviously for the
You went
sake
to
of this
Japan, right?
conversation. But when I went to Japan and I went for a couple of weeks and I was like, holy shit, this was like a pretty like not life changing experience, but it was like your eyes being open to like how much you can like appreciate another country. Like I didn't
Yeah.
enjoyed that experience more than going anywhere else I've ever been, but I was very aware to not be that person because I'd listened to like other podcasts around the same time. So I went just as like Japan was starting to open borders again after COVID, like not long after
Mhm.
that. And the amount of different times where I'd listen to people for the next 3 months be like, well, Japan, 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 Japan,
Yeah.
Japan, Japan.
So when I went to Japan,
Yeah.
yeah, every time you have noodles, right? Like you go for like sushi or just like
Oh well,
grab like
this
some
isn't as good
ramen.
as that place that I went to in
That
Tokyo and blah. It's
that
ugh,
not necessarily with Japan, but like Joe, someone does something,
just anywhere.
or, or I've experienced. I've got tattoos. I never talk about having tattoos because I don't give a shit. It's a tattoo. Who cares? Why'd you get a tattoo? It looked cool when I wanted it.
Hmm.
But the people who get like a couple of tattoos and then all they talk about is like, oh, I can't wait to get my next tattoo. Just like, oh, or like they go for like, just making anything their personality.
It
And
it
you
can
know when
just
you
it
talk to that
can be
person,
frustrating to talk to anyone because like every conversation you have with them just revolves around the same thing every time, right?
and you know as well that when the person is like that, they're not actually listening to you. They're just waiting for an in to steer it back to them,
Hmm.
right? Like the whole thing, like with tattoos and stuff, right? Or like when some or beer, when you go for a beer, and someone drinks it, goes, "Oh, it's not as good as Rio Ale."
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like, oh, it's not as good as it was when I was in Germany, or like when I'm having wine, right? But I won't drink that. It's muck, it's piss. And it's like, well, thanks for the contribution.
Yeah, I'm very much the opposite of like I'll go to like France or Spain and something and be like, oh, this bottle of wine's €1. Let's fucking
Let's
go.
go. So hopefully people can understand like when I'm coming from with this, where we've likely all encountered that kind of person where just they have one experience and it's good for them. It it was it changed their life, but you can talk about something else.
And the one thing that I'll say that I don't want to overlap with when you talk about like bringing it something back to yourself is like I often will speak to people and especially when I was younger like had people occasionally just be like man like want to bring it back to yourself kind of thing like want to talk about yourself a lot of the time and it's like that kind of maybe differences in communications where
Mm.
a lot of the time just when something bad happens to somebody I'll be like oh yeah well I can relate because X happened to me.
And that's the important thing there of like you're not using it as a one up tool, you're using it as like an empathetic tool of like I can kind of see where you're coming from. Like, is there anything? And there are tools you can use in conversation to avoid that because that is a thing people struggle with.
Yeah, and
I
it's
certainly struggled with it, and so I learned the tools to better communicate.
that's the thing is like there's ways to kind of soften it to people that get annoyed with that kind of let's say like communication style empathy style like it is just me trying to be like hey I feel for you because I have experienced something similar and then being like, "Oh man, don't make it about yourself." It's like, I wasn't trying to. I was just trying to say that, like, hey, you know, here's ways that I coped with this experience, and these things
Mhm.
might help. And I appreciate that this must be hard for you, kind of vibes.
Yeah, but then you can get people,
But you
and
can definitely get people that want to make it all about themselves. Definitely.
they will find like whatever tangential way they can steer it back to the thing that they actually want to talk about. Also, it becomes about them. Like I've said, this the dude who wrote for Jackbox Games, where we're in a writers forum. There are people in there who wrote novels. There's people in there who are researching all manner of shit. There are people in there who've been doing it for a decade. There's people like me who are just journeyman writers, where I was writing thousands of words a day on a variety of subjects, and I never really talked about anything specific because it was a job.
Hmm.
And just no matter what time of day it was they'd come in, they'd always try and use the comparison like, yeah, well, when I submitted to Jackbox Games, it was pretty tough. It's like you answered a cold call and got
Yeah, it gets to a certain point where you like you're able to weed out the people who are just trying to relate to you versus the people who are just trying to brag.
Yeah, I remember another example, like speaking of stag do's, went on a stag do a couple of years ago. So you meet a lot of people there who you've probably never met before, probably never meet again, or you might like bump into them every now and again, maybe at the wedding. There's a dude at one of them who'd been on some game show. I forget which one. It's like Pointless or The Chase or one of those. And obviously, it just happened to the dude. Or I thought it had just happened to the guy when I
Oh no.
bumped into him because he, like, he was all there having a drink and he was talking about being on the chase. And I was like, oh, I'm going to say chase. It might have been something else, but he was talking about it.
Yeah.
It's like dead interested. So that sounds really fun. Tell me all about it. Like, told me about the story of how it happened. Like, during the weekend we were away, added me on Facebook. It's like, sure, so I can find you if you disappear to another venue or something. His profile photo is him on the show. So, okay, I guess it's cool you're on TV, right?
Yeah, that's the most recent thing that's happened to you, right?
A couple months later, maybe like 6 months later, maybe even a year, I don't know, time's a flat circle.
Yeah.
End up at another like event that had that group of people there. He was also there. Couple of new people, but a bunch of the same from previously. That guy just zeroed in on the new people in the group. Within about half an hour, started talking about like their appearance on the chase. And I was like, oh, this is just the most interesting thing that's happened to you, hasn't it? And I heard him tell the story multiple times over that, like, the course of that second event to different people with the same wording every single time.
I still remember a stag do that I went to a couple of years back where just within about 5 minutes of starting a conversation with somebody I didn't know in the stag do, um, like they'd mentioned something about like I think it was like a Jaguar, the brand, the car. And
Not an actual Jaguar.
like
Jaguar.
not the car brand, not like an actual animal. And I just joked like, "Oh yeah, like those people that make like owning a certain type of car their entire personality, right?" And laughed, and they were like, "Oh yeah, that's me." And I was like, "Oh yeah, funny joke." They were like, "Look at all the pictures of my Jag," and got up their phone and like, "Oh, I've got all the clothing and everything. It's so cool. Like, look at my Jag." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And it turns out I found out like 3 days later that this person also has a family and children and shit. And I was
That's when it gets
they
bad,
spent
right?
days talking about their car and not their children or
I
wife.
remember the one with that dude who'd been on the show, where like his profile photo was like, and I think he's maybe not the background on his phone, but some photo that he had on his profile photo, something on his WhatsApp thing was that he had a fucking girlfriend.
Yeah, yeah. I think
It's
it was
like your
similar with
photo
this
on
of like
social media isn't you and your missus.
last thing, yeah, just their I think like their
No, I'll
profile
look up.
photo, like their background on the thing, everything
I'm
was
gonna
just a
check.
car.
I'm gonna check. Okay. Okay, it's no longer that photo. I was gonna say I was gonna have a look on like Messenger because he's probably still on Facebook. It's not his photo anymore. This was 5 years ago.
And I in a joking way, I try to hopefully not make it my entire personality, as people can probably hopefully confirm on this show. But I lean into the fact that I like doing goofy things like making gifs of my dogs and stuff.
Yeah.
And also, I'm currently wearing like a shirt with my dog's face all over it.
Oh yeah.
But like, I don't sit there constantly and talk about it like every single conversation or
No, of course not. It's just you happen to own a dog and you'll bring it up when it's relevant. But we've met the people who are like, I'm a dog mom, and everything's just about their dog.
which is
Which
like
feels a bit
it's cute in the sense of like it's nice to
yeah,
to a
we never want
certain
to
extent to like care about the things that you are responsible
passionate about.
for, like children or pets or whatever, right?
That's why it's frustrating, and we want to clarify. Like we're not. It's there's a very there's a level where it becomes frustrating.
And yeah, there is. But anyway, to not beat a dead horse too much.
Why
Just
not?
to
We're doing Jackbox. We should
to
just say the
end.
same joke over and over again.
Well, that's the weird thing is like they finally, way later than they should have done, got the idea to be like, hey, guess what? We're bringing out a new Jackbox game, but it's going to be Jackbox, but for adults.
I don't know why they never did that. Like
No, they
when they
did.
must have, but how long it took though?
How
Surely the
long it
analytics
took.
showed
Yeah.
a quantifiable percentage of the answers in all their games are just swear words.
Yeah, and that's the problem is that when you apparently play the adult version, I haven't played it myself, but when the reviews came out for it, I was like, oh, cool, this might mix things up a bit and like be a new one that I want to download to try out with the friends that I enjoy playing Jackbox with, because this might be like the kind of kick up the arse, the bit of freshness that the series needs to make it a bit more interesting. And apparently they just like really didn't go very adult with the jokes, and a lot of the jokes were just very similar jokes to jokes that had already been made. And
Yeah,
like,
and
what's the point then? Really, if you're not going to fully commit and go like whole hog, you can't really do that, right?
where was their cross collaboration with Cards Against Humanity?
Yeah.
Done. Right, just do a Cards Against Humanity crossover. Fucking done. Get them to write your questions for you.
Or just have a Cards Against Humanity Jackbox game, right? Like in the party pack, be like, one of the games in here is a Cards Against Humanity game.
Yeah. Or alternately, if you want to do like the adult version, like that can go the entire other way, where it gets too adult to the point where it's cringy, where it's clearly trying too hard to like be penises and vaginas and swear words.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure. I can't think of any examples off the top of my head, but I do think of times where I've been at house parties and it's been like, never have I ever. And someone just doesn't read the room and goes straight in. Never have I ever had a threesome. It's like, dude, it's the first one we've had like 1 pint.
I was gonna say I've definitely asked that question before, but like when you're in it, you know what I mean.
You read the room, right? You start small.
Yeah.
Like you don't put your thumb in straight away. Come on, dude.
Yeah. Definitely, but yeah, a weird note to kind of wrap things up on here. But yeah,
wrap things up. Rat.
I don't want to wrap things up, Karl. That's one thing that I will say is that
yes,
Wiki Weekends will end the moment you get your rat out
on stream.
On stream, yeah.
Get my rat out. For lads.
No. God, that is
you know what? Like, would people want to? I've thought about because I've joked in the past.
No.
Let me finish my joke or my story.
And I trust you
about setting up an OnlyFans page.
Okay.
After like Fact Fiend died, and the joke I was going to make is it a Smallwood or not? And I was going to like just use that as the last hurrah. But I never wanted to do it while I was still actively making content because my mum watches my videos, as do like family members and stuff. Plus, I'm still on the internet. So at some point, I do plan on doing it, but I'm still on the internet.
Yeah.
There'll be a point where Wiki Weekends, Fact Fiend, my Twitch stream, I'm just like not interested. I'm like, I just swear off the internet. It's like, well, I don't give a shit if people see what my dick looks like. Give me money.
Comment below what you think would be a reasonable level to put as a Patreon goal for Karl.
Not the only facts. You've got to do it too, though, and you won't commit.
I wouldn't do it. I'm not doing that shit.
Would you commit to do like what is it, like a calendar style photo where it's like footballers where they put like a football over the balls, something like that, Like a wiki
I mean, I have
weekends one.
started committing more to getting back to the gym, so maybe if I was in better shape. But yeah,
It's like not like full like free ball in it, but like do you remember like Marky Player did it right? He didn't get his dick out, but he took some like tasteful
he just got his rat out,
photographs.
Karl.
He didn't get his rat out. He didn't go full rat.
No, but I can't remember what that. There's that movie that I vaguely remember about like doing a calendar shoot, but it's like older women, right?
Calendar Girls. There's also the
Is
Full
it just
Monty.
called Calendar Girls, right?
Yeah, the Full Monty set in Sheffield.
Yeah.
That's about like a bunch of like dudes just getting the knob out.
Doing the full Monty, which is just stripping down fully.
Yep. When in doubt, whip it out.
Please don't do it on Wiki Weekdays. So.
No, I
We need
wouldn't.
this
That's the
shit
thing.
to stay monetized, Karl.
There's a time and a place.
And if you want to let us know what that time and place should be, then comment below to let us know how much you'd be willing to see the Smallwood.
It's like when I was like when I left my old high school. Like speaking of like people bringing the same thing up, when I go back to my hometown, people bring up the fact I streaked around my high school before I left because I didn't give a fuck. And every time I get brought, I've got the same joke when they say, "Oh, remember when you did that and everyone saw you?" But it's like, well, no, they didn't. A bunch of people looked, but no one saw it.
Oh,
And I think I never bring it up because for me, it was like I did it because it was funny and it was 20 years ago. I don't care. But I still go back to people bring it up still. Like, that was so funny. I still tell people about it. And it's like, why would you tell somebody else about the time you saw a 16-year-old's ass?
weird, but I still remember one time when like we were doing Truth or Dare at
Oh, no.
my house, and we ended up all daring each other to like run down my street streaking because it was like 4 o'clock in the morning, and just at the moment we got back into the house, I turn around to go to shut the front door and see my like next door or like my neighbor across the street sitting out in the back garden having a fuck and just seeing it all happen.
Okay. That reminds me
Cigarette
of
apologies, apologies, but yeah.
yeah, it's a rude word, but like it's just it's a colloquialism over in
It's
the
hard
UK for a
to
cigarette.
yeah
Unlearn,
unlearn,
right?
yeah.
Remember it? I told you my friend who was in a band. Like, probably it's one of the funniest things where he was in a band and they were like they parked their band truck like just on someone's driveway because like it's middle of the night, he won't know. He needs a poo. So they told him to have a poo in the guy's garden. But because it was so dark, he didn't know where he was pooing.
Oh no.
In the morning, like 7 o'clock in the morning, some like guys like banging on the van door, like, the fuck is going on? Get out of here right now. And they open it up and it's like, what's going on? It's like, did one of you have a shit on my driver? Like, no, we didn't. And he pointed and he took a step to the side and like a perfect comedy shot according to my friend. Not the poo, but you just saw a pile of poo covered McDonald's napkins.
No.
Just right in the middle of his drive. Because my friend thought he was doing it in like the gutter or something. And didn't realise that he was just in the middle of this dude's drive.
Dear fucking god.
Oh, can you just imagine that coming outside your house? It was just the pyramid of poo. Oh, and it just
No.
makes me laugh so hard when I think about it. Because all I could think of was like, what would you do in that situation?
If you're gonna have a shit on someone's front of their house, make sure
think he
you
was
like make sure you're not there in the morning for them to find it.
just the fact he's pointed and it's the McDonald's they just piled up right in the middle. Oh man. Oh, that friend gets so mad when I tell these stories, but don't be so funny.
Alright, anyway,
Yes.
probably a good place to end. And once again, I do apologise about me just like slipping up there, but again, it's just one of those things that is sadly part of everyday vernacular for a lot of people over here. So sometimes you slip up.
Context and intent matters, and no
Yeah.
offense was intended.
Definitely not. So I do apologize about that, but I hope everyone has enjoyed the podcast and enjoyed our wild ride that we've taken today, because it's been a bit all over the place. This one, we've picked
We
a
went
couple of
some
wikis
places.
that just led to a lot of tangents.
Oh my god, I'm crying. I'm crying remembering that. I was in tears. Like, if you want to, like, maybe we can isolate this clip for like a short or something. But you can see I'm in tears recalling that story.
Yeah, maybe we should get better at clipping out a few of these things and trying to get those viral hits on somewhere that's not Twitter.
I'm getting this, like, clipping it out just like a perfectly coiled boo in the middle of some guy's drive. It was so perfect.
Oh, but yeah, I hope everyone's enjoyed the more casual style podcast. And like, one of those things to mention, we don't often promote the fact that we do have like other Patreon goals that we're working towards, and one of them is like doing recordings in person. That's our next goal, and like the one after that is to do more casual style, like Patreon exclusive episodes per month,
like Q&As, like stories from the week, stuff like that.
More stuff that's like tangent related and will be a bit more like weird and off the cuff, like this podcast was. A bit more, trying to detail what we've been through in the past few weeks or whatever, or like respond to questions and stuff. But yeah, a bit more casual and a bit more like kind of based around us as people rather than necessarily the wiki content.
Yeah.
The subjects that the wikis bring. But yeah, just something to like kind of tease there, that I know that this and next week's podcast will probably be a bit more of those vibes. So if you'd like to like get more, a literal goal to try and make more of this style content in the future.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Like, more stuff coming in. Let's go.
And have a great day.
Yeah, see you all next time. Cheers.